Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
And I'm Charles Rogers.
I'm Stephanie. I am the woman half of my show, Dark Side Divas. And I don't have an intro here either. This is my kryptonite. Hi.
Hi, welcome in. Steph, I've been dying to get you on here for ages. Ever since we had Chris on for Bad Batch, I was like, oh, we also have to have Steph on. We have to maintain balance in the Force.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you bringing me on for this one because he's dying of jealousy because he really wanted to talk about the season finale here. And no, that's me. You go play at Disney. I get to record this podcast.
Oh, we'll get to that. I have a specific point in my notes where we can bag on Chris for being at Disneyland while we're recording this. I noted it specifically.
Oh, thank you. That's a little gift for me. I have something to look forward to later. It's like a mint. It's going to be great.
I know. I've listened to every single episode of Dark Side Divas. I know your brand by now. Before we hop into the episode, we did have some news this week that falls under the umbrella of hot men doing Star Wars things. Bradley, do you want to tell us what happened this week?
Okay, so before I get right into it, I'm going to apologize to you because yesterday when this news broke, I was working an event for my TV show that I work on. And it was a 12-hour day, so we're getting into like the end part and I was really late and I was like really exhausted because I've been working this event the whole time. And he texts me and he's just like, this thing happened. And I was just like, okay, like, that's great. Like, it's a good thing, I guess. And I didn't think about it until now, but very exciting news just happened.
Yes. So what was it according to the Hollywood Reporter, Bradley?
So apparently some guy, I don't know who he is, some guy who's played Anakin Skywalker in the past, some nobody, some Joe Schmo.
Some fucking Canadian.
Yeah, some random ass Canadian actor is coming back to reprise his role as Anakin Skywalker in the Ahsoka show.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Steph,
I'm so excited. I'm disgustingly excited.
Now, Steph, you said something on Twitter about the role that he might play that I completely agree with. What was it you said that you think he'll show up as in the show?
I think he will show up as Anakin Skywalker's Force ghost.
Ooh.
I think he's going to show up as a Force ghost and he's going to be all glowy and he's going to call her Snips and then I'm going to cry my eyes out.
I will legitimately probably take a sick day from work the next day if that happens.
Yeah, I will need to recover from the dehydration from all the crying.
So do you think it's going to be like a Jiminy Cricket kind of situation? Like he's always going to be there in every episode telling her like, this is what you need to do. Like,
I don't think they're going to overuse him.
Okay.
Because that's a strong flavor to add to the recipe there. And Filoni and them have always been really good about letting the new story take its own arc and have its own life with the bones of the old and a little something there to support it. So I think he'll be there when Ahsoka is at her darkest. And she's going to be, if the story that they're going to follow in this show is what I think it's going to be, she's going to need some help. It's going to be rough. So I'm excited.
I also know that Rosaria Dawson on Instagram confirmed it. Mm-hmm. And in her confirmation, she referred to him in the comment as Sky Guy and signed it Snips. And that alone, like I'm sitting here, I saw it at my job. I was sitting at my desk. I work at a completely quiet office, which will also be relevant to a note I have later on about the episode. But I work in a completely quiet office. It's basically silent all the time. I sit there and I listen to podcasts. I'm sitting at my desk trying not to scream. Veins are bulging in my head like I'm just going to go to the car and lose my fucking shit after I get out of this office, which I probably did. when I got
there you
in my
go.
car.
Yeah. And what I'm really enjoying about this announcement is how positive the reaction to it has been.
Yes.
Like sort of universally, at least on all the sides of Star Wars social media that I can see, everybody's really excited and like wholeheartedly supporting Hayden Christensen's return to the Star Wars universe, which is very different from the tone that we all had for him during the prequels. And I wish we could I wish that love could be shared to other actors who were horribly damaged by the Fandom Menace's backlash during the first round with the prequel movies, like poor Jake Lloyd. I wish we could spread some love towards that guy.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd, like it's still kind of a sore spot for me when I watch the Phantom Menace, knowing what happened to him because of that movie and around that movie.
Yeah,
it is definitely something like when you look at the attitude toward the prequels now, for kids like Bradley, you were a prequels kid, and I was
literally just doing the math so I could just double check myself just to see how old I was. I was 8.
Kids,
yeah.
Those kids have grown up, and the level of appreciation and love, like Ahmad Best getting standing ovations at Star Wars Celebration.
When he was reviled in public.
He was despised.
Yes.
Right.
They hated. I was just young enough to enjoy the prequels and just old enough to comprehend what was happening around them.
Oh, wow.
So it was a strange age, but yeah, it's awesome that like Hayden's getting, and I can't wait. I don't want to bag on George Lucas too much because I genuinely respect the man, but I cannot wait to see Hayden Christensen work with an actually good director like Deborah Chow.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Right? Because he can act. He can act really well, and people
I have heard
believe that.
You wouldn't know it to look at the prequels. So, and that's down to bad direction and bad script. That
it is.
That grew up in an environment where nobody said no.
Right.
So it was an emperor has no clothes type of environment.
Fucking Rick McCullum.
Now I'm picturing George Lucas naked, and we need to move on. So
yes,
good transition.
let's get to the episode before I have to think about that at all.
His neck pouch. All
right, Bradley, you want to take us into more hot men and wonderful ladies doing Star Wars things for 45 minutes?
Yes, let's rescue us from this conversation.
Fuck you.
Yes, we are talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 8, called The Rescue, where the Mandalorian and his allies attempt a daring rescue. Steph, what is one thing about this episode that you liked and one thing you did not?
Well, I think the big thing that we're probably all going to agree is like the thing to like happens at the end. So I'm not even gonna reference that.
Okay.
But
cool.
the thing that I liked outside of that was the Girl Squad boarding party.
Yes.
Oh. My favorite thing about it was like during the planning phase. I mean, they all get on the ship and nobody on that ship has a prayer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But during the planning phase, at no point did these big, strong men go, but maybe we should go.
Right.
No, they knew their role. They stepped back.
Yeah.
Everybody had their tasks. Boba was like, I'll stay on the ship. It's cool.
Yeah.
And because everybody in there was frightfully competent and enormously dangerous. And so they just went, and like, it was especially fun to watch because I've been watching some of these women for years. Right. So that wasn't just, that was like, what am I trying to say? That wasn't just Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves and Fennec Shand running in there. That was Starbuck and Sasha Banks and Melinda May running in there for me. Yeah. And I'm like, so that was just another layer of everybody on that ship is fucked right now when they ran in. And it was so good. So good. So that was one thing that, also, it was delicious, but then it was extra delicious after the episode aired because it was salted with fanboy tears. Just sprinkled all over it. They were so furious that Mando was like left to be sneaking around the ship and Boba left, and it was just down to these girls. It was so good.
But Steph, everyone knows you cannot have more than one girl in a Star Wars movie. You have to have the one girl with the blaster, and then all of the others have to be side characters. That's how this works. You can't give a girl a lightsaber unless she's a background alien. That's not how this franchise works.
Girls in my Star Wars? It's more likely than you think. Yeah. It was wonderful. It was so much fun to watch. It was such a like a Wonder Woman moment for me watching them go at it. It's amazing. One thing that I disliked, and I'm not going to say I disliked it because I don't think that's a strong enough word. I hated with the fiery passion of 1,000 hells, the Dark Trooper theme music.
Oh,
you hear the music that came on when we're watching the Dark Troopers activate?
So that's an interesting thing that you said, because I really liked it. And I can defend that choice.
And you don't need to. If you liked it, you liked it. You don't need to defend it to me. I hated it because partly because my inner goth club kid from the early 2000s loved it. Ate that shit up with a spoon, but like, this is Star Wars. What in the reject from the Blade 2 soundtrack is this shit that they're playing over these Dark Troopers? Like, techno dubstep in my Star Wars score is not the peanut butter in my chocolate situation that they thought it was gonna be. Okay. The first time I watched this episode, I legit thought like another track had started playing, like maybe there was another tab open or something, like this was an ad, but no, that was just fucking weird music.
That's awesome.
See, my thing that I liked was actually the overall score, the Goranson score. And several times I actually noted that I really liked how different the Dark Trooper music was and how uncomfortable it was. Because I thought it highlighted, looking at the way he normally scores Mando, he normally scores it like a Western.
Mm-hmm.
He specifically writes the music this way. And then the Dark Troopers come in and he's got this like grinding techno thing that just highlights how weird and out of place just highlights how weird and out of place these things are and how different they are from everything else in the show.
Okay. So I can see that.
I really liked it on that level, but I was never a goth club kid. I dated one of those, but I was never one myself, probably because I did date one of those.
Yeah, no, we were insufferable. Yeah, there's a reason that's a breed that grew up.
But even the moments like, you know, when Moff Gideon and Den are talking in the cell and the score that underlines that, or the fact that like the Mando theme plays when Boba Fett fires at the Lambda class shuttle, like a little touch like that. Just Ludwig Göransson's music, unbelievable.
It's good stuff.
Unbelievably good stuff. One thing I disliked, other than the thing that we're going to talk about at the end, which I have slightly complicated feelings on. I wasn't super wild about the shot that they chose to end the episode on. It was a cool shot, and specifically the sound effect they played right after. I remember when I first watched the episode and that happened and the door closes and there's this kind of ominous slamming sound. I went, is that how you end an episode? Like, is this how you end the season? With them just kind of standing there and you've set up all this stuff over the course of the episode, and a bunch of it, like the Bo-Katan stuff, is just not going to get resolved. Like, I felt like the episode, when I first watched it, I felt like the episode needed about 5 or 10 more minutes. Like, Bradley, you bagged on that scene from the finale of season 1, where everything is fine and they just talk about the epilogue for 5 minutes. But this one didn't have that at all. And when I first watched it, I was like, what?
It's almost like an overcorrection.
Yeah. Like, they ended it. And like, I can kind of see the logic where they wanted to end it on this moment where they step into the elevator and the door closes and Grogu and Den are separated, maybe permanently. But at the same time, like, there were a lot of questions that were left unanswered for me by the end of the episode. And I felt like it.
So you're going to watch next season then, huh?
Oh, I'm definitely going to.
It's almost like they do that on purpose. It's weird.
It's almost like they were trying to bait me into watching more of their show, which, I mean, I'm a shitty fanboy who will drop Star Wars at the first sign of anything that I personally don't like or makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
This is well documented by the fact that I continue to watch Star Wars and buy all of the novels and read all of the comics and play all
have
of the
a podcast about
it. Have a podcast about
Exactly.
I see you.
Bradley, what about you? One thing you liked and one thing you disliked.
Let's see. Well, of course, I too also have mixed feelings about the end, but for probably different reasons than you. So I'll save those for the end. What I liked was Lady Squad was probably my favorite part of the episode as well. I think that was just, it really was chef's kiss. Like, it was I love seeing Bo-Katan in action. Like, that's one of my favorite things about The Mandalorian is just seeing her do stuff, like, or even seeing Cosca Reeves do stuff. Like, Cosca Reeves' scene in this with Boba fighting, like, I thought that was one of the best fun scenes because it's just like I like her character. I like both characters. I like all lady characters in this show pretty much, except for one. But which has been a change from the episode 4 that we did with you, right?
Where you were not wild about how the girl power was handled in that episode.
Right. I think this one it wasn't like in your face to the point where it was like, look what it wasn't like the Avengers movie, where at the end of Avengers they were like, we're all here and we all happen to have vaginas. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that. You know, it was nothing like that. It was very like,
right.
No, this is way better. This was done in a way where it's like, no, look, these are the people who actually know what to do in this situation. Here's the people who don't need, like, they're the only ones who can do this. The two men in the situation cannot do this thing because one has to go do another task and the other one has to sit on his not a slave ship. So that's what so they were, you know, it made sense for the episode. I think they were all capable. One thing I did not like about the episode, honestly, there wasn't too much I didn't like. I think I just wanted it to be longer. I think I needed, like you said, I think I needed another 10 minutes of the episode just to resolve something to the point. Like, you don't have to resolve the Grogu, you know, Din storyline like that. I get, you can cut that off and be like, oh, will they stay together kind of thing. That's fine. But like, I kind of need more. I know they're setting up this other thing with the whole Mandalorian storyline or Mandalore storyline, but it's like, I kind of needed them to set up like what will be going on in the next thing. Not, we have no idea what's going on in the next thing, you know? So, because I liked how Moff Gideon was very like smug the whole time because he knew what was going on. And then Mando has no fucking clue because he's not a real Mandalorian. You know, he doesn't know anything. And then, you know, Bo-Katan didn't say anything the whole time at the end. So she's very like silent. She knows what's happening, but she doesn't say it out loud. And they leave Gideon to kind of tell us. And I kind of needed her to kind of reaffirm.
I feel like we end on that moment. And we'll probably talk about this some more later. But we end on that moment. They cut it there because I, as an audience member, I was bawling, and I was sitting in that moment of bereftness when you watch your child go beyond a door that you can't follow. And like, for anybody to go, okay, look, I know you're really sad right now, but can we talk about the Darksaber thing? We need to talk about the fact that's my fucking planet. I need that sword. We got to fight right now. Like, that would have been really tacky, I think, to put that on. I feel like that scene may have even been written and they might have even tried to shoot it and they might have gone, you know what?
That's true.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't work.
I didn't think of that because there's no artwork at the end. There's no
right. That's weird.
Concept art, which I thought was weird. Because I feel like you're right. There might be a whole scene they cut, and you know what? I bet you anything that's the premiere of the next season. Is like
we're probably going to start right there with Mando just staring with tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
I can't handle it when Pedro Pascal cries. I'm okay.
There's like a section where it kind of feels like Bo-Katan is explaining what the plot of the next season's going to be. I have it noted. We'll get to it when we get to it in the episode. But there was a specific point where she outlined like where I think they're sort of going with this. But we'll get there when we get there. We should probably dive into it and start talking about this specific
of course,
episode.
let's do it.
We do not want another the Jedi on our hands.
I mean, it takes as long as it takes. But all right, let's go.
Our episode begins as Boba Fett's starship chases a Lambda-class shuttle. On board is none other than Dr. Pershing. Boba Fett successfully disables the shuttle and the Mando crew boards the ship. One of the pilots decides to be a dick to Cara Dune, so she shoots him in the face.
God, I love the Lambda-class shuttles so much. God, I love those things.
That was not how I expected that sentence to end, but all right.
Yeah, well, you know,
Lambda-class shuttles, huh?
Right.
The Lambda-class shuttle. I don't know why. Ever since I saw Return of the Jedi, I've always really liked the design of the Lambda-class shuttles.
All right, then.
I have the Lego set and everything, but then I have the Lego set of every fucking ship in this thing because I have no impulse control.
The ships are characters in the story, just like everybody else. So absolutely. You love on that Lambda-class shuttle.
I
go
will,
for it, honey.
I will. Well, I just remember I love the specifically the blue kind of inverted like triangles because I remember watching that scene in Return of the Jedi, which is one of my favorite scenes, and it's got this kind of ominous Empire vibe to it behind it. So to see them recreated in this, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then we see that like where the door is in it, because the door actually opens and it didn't in Return of the Jedi, I don't think. I don't know. I just really love those ships.
Well, good.
Let's talk about those two actors because I found something really fun about one of them.
Okay.
Bradley, did you do any research into these actors, or did you leave it to me this time?
Of course not. I these were pilots. I wasn't too interested in them, so I just.
You weren't interested in the one with the punchablest face ever? Thomas E. Sullivan with the punchable face.
Such a punchable. I thought he was Evan Peters for a second.
No.
I was like, did they get Evan Peters to be in this? Because I really want to deck him.
Yeah, and you should. And he has weaponized that for the purposes of his career. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Yeah,
he was in a lot of those this season.
It's almost like they're pulling from the same talent pool.
I know.
It's almost like there's not that huge of a talent pool of actors who do minor roles in TV shows.
Unproblematic actors who will pass Disney muster. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a smaller pool.
No.
The other actor that's in this scene is the one I really want to talk about is a guy named Luke Baines. And here's the thing about Luke Baines, right? What do we classify as a Disney movie for the purposes of the Disney trifecta?
Ooh, so it can't be like so like for example, people would consider Pretty Woman to be a Disney movie because it was made technically by a subsidiary of Disney. So I'm gonna say like it has to be a tried and true, like either a Disney animation or it has to be like a classic Disney movie. It can't be like a subset.
Because if it's just associated with Disney makes it a Disney movie, then Julia Roberts' Hooker character is a Disney princess now.
Right, exactly. So I don't know.
So
would, for example, shameless Disney propaganda count as a quote unquote Disney movie? Because the reason I ask is because Luke Baines, who's in this episode, he is the character who gets shot by the other pilot because
with
he's
the punchable
like,
face. Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to die in this moment. So he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he also had a minor role in saving Mr. Banks.
Oh. Really?
Really. He is credited as the waiter. Saving Mr. Banks.
I mean, well, technically the movie is about what is it, Mary Poppins or something, right? Like it's like it's like a docu kind of movie.
It's like a shamelessly Disney propaganda-ist retelling
right of someone's real life story.
Poppins.
Right.
Look, the mouse has an excellent PR department. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with yes. He would meet the Disney trifecta because that counts as a Disney movie.
Not all Disney trifectas are created equal.
Right.
Correct. I would say that yes, we can give him technically. He has completed the Disney trifecta. He is our second Mandalorian actor to complete the Disney trifecta.
Nice.
In fairness, though, we're gonna put an asterisk. Ming-Na Wen's Disney trifecta definitely more substantial than
Luke wins a little bit more. Yeah.
Credit to Luke Baines for pulling it off.
Mm-hmm.
But Ming-Na Wen has him absolutely destroyed in that department.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mulan.
Oh God.
Love her.
Oh, we stand her so hard here.
She's so great. She's so fucking great. Okay. Yes. So are we talking about who else? The elephant in the shuttle?
Yeah. This being Cara Dune's last real substantial scene.
Mm-hmm.
She does this, she does some action. We have one last lingering shot on her, and then she is no longer in the franchise.
Never to be heard or seen again. Mm-hmm.
She went with the Mithril on a mission to a planet that got blown up in a mining accident, and then we never heard from her or the Mithril ever again.
I like the Mithril.
The Mithril's actor, for trigger reasons, he has been accused of some fairly horrible grooming stuff.
Oh, never mind. They can go to the same horrible planet.
Yes. So when they were working, when the actor was working for SNL. So that has come out. So that's why our previous jokes of the Mithril probably will not be back. We'll see.
So here's the thing. I typically don't like to give Gina Carano my attention or my breath. However, since this is the last time I'm going to have to talk about her in association with Star Wars until my podcast in 20 years gets around to The Mandalorian, then okay. So here's the thing. I was so happy to see Cara Dune on screen in The Mandalorian, just to see her, to see the space that she took up, because representation matters, and it's really nice to see a thick bitch on the screen. I mean, come on. She's not a single digit size by any means. And you never see that. And so we've got this big old girl and she is stomping around the outer rim, and she is just like covered in all these like meaty slabs of muscle, the kind of muscle that you need to be a drop trooper. And
she looks like a soldier.
She looks like she could take your head off. Yes, that's because she legit could take your head off. But somebody of her size in comparison to other lovely ladies of the galaxy, and she's not the punchline, and she's not the villain, and she's not a pitiful wannabe love interest for Mando. Like, that was never a thing. Right. Like, that was amazing. And she also provided space in the Star Wars story to actually mourn for Alderaan, which is something that not even the princess of Alderaan was given time to do. Like, she saw it blow up, and then she had to 10 minutes later comfort fucking Luke because an old man he met 5 minutes ago died. Her whole planet is dead, but okay, honey, here's your blankie. Like, so I really appreciated that her character carved that space. I love the character of Cara Dune, performance aside. She's a badass. She's a veteran. She's respected for her skills and for her ethics. On both sides, on the Outer Rim outlaw side and on the New Republic side. Everybody fucking loves her because of what she can do and because of how she conducts herself. I love her. I am so disappointed with Gina Carano. Like, because you couldn't just be a good fucking person and let us keep this character. Okay, fine. So I will remember Cara Dune fondly, but I have nothing nice to say about the actress portraying her.
Never say never, because Disney is not above recasting people. So
I encourage them to do so. Could we please? Maybe she has a sister, Laura Dune.
That was brought up. That was brought up in the initial like wake of her contract is not being renewed, which is different than her being fired. People who are writing about this online, her contract just was not renewed for another season. That happens. But I remember it was brought up like, oh, how do we approach her role in the story? And people were complaining. I have this issue with the Star Wars fandom.
Just the one.
I have many issues, but one of them is like, especially with the IATSE strike. At time of recording this episode, we're in kind of a gray area with the IATSE strike,
right?
Where Star Wars fans will hear these real life things affecting the show and go, but what are they going to do with Rangers of the New Republic now? But what are they going to do with my shows? And I'm like, can you get your head out of the fucking sand for 5 goddamn minutes?
Right.
Like, the Gina Carano thing was a real problem that was affecting actual people in their lives. The stuff that she was doing on social media was deeply divisive and deeply damaging stuff. Like, so Rangers of the New Republic might be being retooled behind the scenes, and that's why it's not in active development. Fine. That's what happens. Yeah. Real life is more important than your fictional story.
And Disney has all the time and all the money in the world. If they decide that after a year or two, that they can revisit that story and bring it back and make some money with it, that's exactly what they're going to do.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be her. She's not the only Marshal of the New Republic.
100%. We were talking about that, how you don't even have to do the same character, just something equal or greater than to the same character.
I think there's a valid story.
Yeah.
I think there's a story to be told there.
I personally think that they should make Paul Sun-Hyung Lee the star of Rangers of the New Republic, which is the Asian X-Wing pilot.
Yes.
Yeah. Give him that show.
Yeah. And that's me getting my thick bitch back too.
There you go.
He's precious and I love him.
Yes. My last point on this is I just find it really interesting, he said as he took a sip of his coffee. I just find it interesting how
he didn't actually take a sip of his coffee. I just want everybody to know that.
I did.
He's narrating doing it, but he didn't do it. And we all take a sip.
I just find it interesting how a certain subset of people were ripping on the character of Cara Dune when she first premiered and making all these complaining videos about her right up until the actress started agreeing with you politically and on Disney and how fast that tune changed. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, the same motherfuckers who were like, what's this girl doing in my Mando? Are the same ones who are like, bring my girl back to my Mando. Like, no, you can't have it both ways. Oh, fans.
Speaking of shitty men. So, dude who like holds the gun to Pershing's head.
Right. With the punchable face. Yes.
With the punchable face. No hate to Thomas E. Sullivan.
I'm sure he's
performs the role great. But yes, this guy is like, so I was on the Death Star. And I'm looking at this dude like,
how old are you?
You cannot be more than 30.
Yeah, like A, how are you on the Death Star and you're as young as you are, and B, how are you on the Death Star and you're not atoms right now?
Because the first Death Star, you didn't get a transfer off of the Death Star. That was not a thing that happened.
No.
The second Death Star, like maybe conceivably, but also you're like a TIE pilot. They're dressed in like the TIE pilot helmetless uniforms, which are actually different than the shuttle pilots we see in the original trilogy flying the shuttles. So like, are you just so shitty you weren't promoted up from TIE pilot? Like,
I don't, he's lying though, because
he's definitely
Vader is the only one who survived the first Death Star, as far as I know, because everybody else who was flying out there with him, I believe, got shot down. And then everybody who was on the Death Star fucking died.
Did the second Death Star, did it deploy any TIE fighters, or were those solely from the Star Destroyers?
I don't know, but I'm sure somebody listening right now is screaming the answer.
Someone
I hear you,
is
honey.
going to shout at me.
They're like,
actually,
I saw that one right there that flew away.
Chris is listening right now and he's going, God damn it.
You got it. It's right there. It's this background shot in the movie.
Right.
Exactly. That's so yummy.
But this
His suffering pleases me. Go on.
Oh, yes. Suffer, bitch. So that segues into my other point with this conversation, which is the whole millions of people were killed on the Death Star thing.
Yeah.
That people who like to paint the rebels in a bad light love to point out in and out of universe that millions of people were killed on the Death Star.
Yes.
When the two Death Stars, when they exploded. They never mentioned that it's millions of fascists.
Well, you know,
it's a little different.
Fascists are people too, biologically, sure. But yeah, no, that is absolutely a talking point that I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but like the rebels killed a bunch of people too.
Right.
Rebels were terrorists. Yeah, okay, it's a matter of perspective and whose propaganda you're consuming on the day. Sure. Right. But yeah, no, but I do appreciate that they included that because to show us that the imperial propaganda machine still is rolling along.
Right.
Because it's just purring in the background of the New Republic and it'll fire up again later.
We've mentioned too on previous episodes for our recaps of both season 1 and season 2, we've talked about the type of person who's going to be recruited into the Empire post Jakku. When the Empire is basically a bunch of like fascist fanboys that run around pretending to be important and bullying people in stormtrooper armor because they were too inept or incompetent to go into the unknown regions with Ray Sloan and found the First Order. So this seemed as a great job of speaking to like what someone who is going to drink this Kool-Aid is gonna be spouting. This
and how hard you're gonna want to punch him in the face when he does.
Because they're all punchable in this show.
God, they're so good. Brilliant casting.
The guy in last week, the officer that Mayfield shoots, love it.
Oh, love that actor. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but that actor his whole career is playing that guy that you fucking hate, and that's his job. And from what I understand, he's lovely.
A lot of people
who excels with that.
A lot of people who play those roles tend to be, from what I hear, like the type of person who takes on that role. Like a lot of them I hear, they're just absolutely lovely in person. Like Sir Christopher Lee was apparently, and Peter Cushing were lovely people and played some of the worst monsters in Sir Christopher Lee's case, quite literally.
Indeed.
It's almost that time of year. Well, it is that time of year to
spooky
watch
season.
Movies again. Some two more small notes I have for this sequence. How is Boba Fett boarding the ship exactly? And when I say that, I don't mean how is he attaching the auxiliary hatch, the boarding hatch, which we see. So he's behind the ship. He comes under the ship and then like goes up the front of it for his dramatic reveal.
But that was so cool because it was a cockpit to cockpit.
Is he doing it just because he's a dick?
Yeah. I think we can ascribe a lot of Boba Fett's actions to because he's a dick.
He's just dramatic. He doesn't.
Yeah. No, it's for the drama.
Yeah.
It's for the drama of it.
And I appreciate that.
Boba Fett's maybe given some, he might sort of play for our team kind of vibes with how dramatic he is about everything.
I think he plays for whatever team he wants to play for, and nobody's going to fight him about it. He's the 800-pound gorilla. He may play for whatever team he feels like.
He's whatever he wants to be in that particular moment. And are you going to tell Boba Fett he's making the wrong choice? No. The man is tricked out with so many blasters in his fucking joints that like, you're not going to do anything. I wanted to bring up real fast before we move on to the next section. They describe Pershing for the first time in the scene specifically as a clone engineer. In light of the Bad Batch,
Right.
Now showing what, to a degree, the hints, at least, of what the post-Kaminoan Imperial cloning division is like. It's interesting that he's a clone engineer. Especially, he looks like maybe he's 45. I don't know how old the real guy is. How involved was he in this? How long has it been going? And how much is sticking around?
I think just based on timeline, he would have absolutely had to have been trained with Nala C. You know, she gets taken to the big spooky mountain place, the name of which I cannot recall.
Mount Tantus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's almost certainly there, and like being so sweet and so earnest and just so there for the science. Like, clearly this is not an ideology for him. Like, he's just a mad scientist. He just wants to pursue the science. He's I'm going to help you guys go get the kid because I want to keep poking it. Like, yeah, he's just there for the science. So I can see him like being all standing there with his data pad, just so excited to meet Nala C. And now we're going to work together and I'm going to learn everything from her. Yeah, absolutely. I want to punch him in the face too, though.
I also find it interesting that he has like the most ethics. On the surface, he has the most ethics because he doesn't want the child to get killed.
The most ethics of the Imperials?
Yes, which is a low bar. Which is a really low bar to hit at this point. So the question then would be like, does he say that and he's so defensive of the child because he wants to keep doing science on the child, or because, you know, it's ethically wrong to shoot a child, Anakin?
Well, it's amazing how many sentences you can start with "it's ethically wrong to" and then end with Anakin. Like, that's an entire novel right there. But yeah, no, I the feeling I get from him is he's absolutely that kind of scientist character who seems harmless until you're on his table.
Right.
And then he still seems harmless, but he's doing so much harm because he's just a scientist and you underestimated him. I honestly think that his ethics were about preserving not the life and happiness of the child, but preserving the source of the science, the source of the M count blood.
Right.
Fucking M count.
Well, I won't spoil it for you, Stef, because you're working your way through the High Republic now.
I am, slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. You have been suckered into it. Thank you, Darth Chaco and others, for convincing Stef to join us in the wonderful world of the Jedi that fuck. I'm still working on Bradley, but I will say that the M count does come up in one of those stories, and it's done in a really clever way. Well,
that would be a nice change.
I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on how they implement the concept into Trail of Shadows.
Up next, the Mando group arrives to a cantina to find Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves. Boba and Casca get into a scuffle ending with dual flamethrowers canceling each other out in a weird game of rock, paper, flamethrower. And you like that? That was funny.
Sorry, go on.
Normally we edit out when Bradley has to stop in the middle of those. But
I know it's actually funny. No, it's funny. I like it.
I'm sitting over here with my head in my hands at the mention of the fucking flamethrowers. The two fucking flamethrowers going at each other.
I saw that when I'm in my rewatch, and I was like, Charles is loving this moment.
Oh yeah, Charles loved this fucking moment.
Every time. He hates it. And I love that they use it twice in this episode too. So that's what makes it even better. This one was just really funny, but
Jesus. I love how both of them used the flamethrower, but didn't quite like the flamethrowers hit against each other.
Because that's what happens when you point a flame at a flame, it just cancels itself out. You're absolutely right, Bradley.
It cancels it out.
Yeah.
That's how fucking fire works.
Absolutely. No, it gets too hot, so hot that it goes cold and it's not there anymore. Right?
I think so.
Oh, Star Wars.
I'm sure that's how physics works. Right. Okay. What happens in the rest?
Sorry. There was
no. The only thing I said left was the group uses the knowledge from Dr. Pershing to form a plan to infiltrate Gideon's light cruiser.
Okay.
So I threw the plan in there too at the end. But we can keep talking about the flamethrower because clearly that's part of the whole entire scene.
I fucking love this scene.
Oh, we'll get to. We'll come back to the flamethrowers because the second use of the flamethrower is somehow fucking worse than this one.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
That.
Okay.
I want to point out the gauntlet fighter that we see parked when it lands initially, but I want to also point out how smooth the integration of the CGI and everything is, because there's a shot where Slave One comes down and lands and the hatch opens and the three walk out and it never cuts.
And you never feel it.
So fucking cool.
I did notice one thing for the first time in the rewatch here. As Slave One is coming in, I'm like, so Boba repainted his armor, but not his ship.
Yeah,
that ship still looks like hammered shit.
Well,
because he's got priorities. Okay,
priorities.
Gotta get the outfit first, then we'll work on the ride.
Yes. I really am thinking that Boba Fett might not be playing solely for the heterosexual team here. If his priority is his looks above his ride, I'm just saying. And that's not just because he's played by Tamura Morrison, who, as we previously have established, is daddy. Sorry.
God. Oh my God. It's so good. Almighty. It's so good. Love that, man.
Do you want to bag on Chris, Stef?
I would love to.
Great.
What have we got?
So the menu that's shown in when they walk into the cantina.
Okay.
All of it, like with the prison stuff in episode 6, all of it is food that exists in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
And a lot of that food is food that you can purchase on Batuu. Where, at time of recording, Stef's lovely co-host, lovely being put in quotation marks there, Chris, who is that gay man on Dark Side Divas, is at time of recording on Batuu right now.
Yeah,
Nice.
no, he is at a weekend retreat at Nerd Church, and he is gathering the blessings of the mouse to bring them back to the podcast, I guess. And we'll see.
Is that the excuse he's using?
I'm just fucking jealous. Let's just make it clear. If I lived in the area that he lives in and I had easy access to Disney, I'd bankrupt myself getting there.
Oh, for
and
sure.
just they would have to escort me the fuck out of Batuu. They'd be like, ma'am, you do have a home, right? Like you need to go to that home and not stay here. And that would happen all of the time. I'd be selling plasma to get to Batuu. Okay, I get it.
Well,
but
idea.
I just
see.
My birthday is in late November, and I just bought my tickets and made my reservations.
Nice.
Because I was supposed to go. The last birthday I had was a milestone birthday. I was supposed to go to Batuu, and then somebody released the Blue Shadow virus, and that became that became not a feasible thing that we could do anymore.
Roger that.
So this year I am actually doing it, and I'm sitting here buying my tickets and making my reservations going, how are some people, Chris, paying for this?
Man,
all
I
of
don't
the time.
know.
Who is your sugar daddy, and can I meet him?
Right. But I'm glad that one of us on our show gets to go and experience the Batuu of it all, and so he brings me back stories about it, and one of these days he'll actually bring me back some fucking swag. That'd be nice.
I was about to say, so he can bring you back stories, but he can't buy you something. He can't get you like a $5 ticket. Who am I kidding? Nothing costs $5 at fucking Disney.
Nothing does. Like his ticket stub, maybe that would be $5.
Right, there you go.
But anyway, yeah, that's awesome that that menu is actually reflected in the real life. That's awesome.
Something that I really like about The Mandalorian is they when they have those little background Aurebesh details like that, when they translate, they do actually mean things. Like we mentioned on episode 6 when we did that one with Kyle, that every single fucking prison that's mentioned with the Orabesh that she cycles through is an actual prison that exists either in canon or legends, which is insane. Insane the level of detail they put in the production design.
Well, I like to think that Filoni was like, guys, you can't just put anything on that screen. Trust me. I made Clone Wars, and I know that the fans are going to freeze frame and translate everything. So it's got to spell something, because there's a couple of times in Clone Wars where it's gibberish. It's just like random words and stuff. And yeah, there are posts online. Where the fans are like, what the hell does this even mean?
Right.
So they've learned that you actually have to put actual content on there.
Let's talk about how problematic Bo-Katan is.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I didn't feel her being. Oh wait, no. Okay, no. I know where you're going. Go on.
So in universe, we're talking in universe. The character, absolutely problematic icon that we love, and then she says words, and we're like, oh,
right, you're a bitch. I forgot. Okay.
When she hears, and I didn't realize this until my second viewing this time, third viewing of the episode overall, that what sets her off about Boba Fett is she hears his voice.
Yeah.
And immediately recognizes, you sound like D. Bradley Baker.
Right. Because I'm watching it this time. And for one thing, did you see how quickly that bar emptied out when there was not two, but now 4 Mandalorians in the bar? Everybody had somewhere else to be. And that is correct. Absolutely. But you notice that the Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves, neither of them gave any indication that they recognized Boba Fett.
Correct.
That's not a person that they know about. So they never crossed paths with him when he was active as the best bounty hunter in the galaxy. Because the last time they existed in the same universe, Boba was a teenager. So that would have been awkward. But yeah, no, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, why is she...
Yeah, why is she
had good interactions with the clones. Why is she so fucking mad that she has heard his voice? And then I remembered what happened after her good interactions with the clones was there was this whole order that went out. And all of a sudden, every clone she ever interacted with was murdering Jedi and was an Imperial attack dog.
Right.
So that would explain that attitude.
It's one of those Kanan situations. Like, we want to side with the clone because we like the clone, but on the other hand, they did kind of do a order bad. Yeah. But she have to call his dad his donor? Did she have to go there? Well, here's
the
thing with that line.
Yeah, it was very derogatory.
Here's the thing with that line, because remember, we've established she doesn't know who Boba Fett is.
Right.
So she probably doesn't know that Boba Fett is an unaltered and raised by Jango.
Right.
She just assumes that some random clone has found Mandalorian armor and has put it on, and it's just kind of assumed that this Mandalorian, quote unquote Mandalorian foundling, was like walking around claiming he was the son of a Mandalorian.
Right.
When in reality, it's just a clone that got its donor. So that line struck me as a huge bitch move. The first time I watched it, once I realized that she just thinks he's your run-of-the-mill D. Bradley Baker clone, then it makes more sense for her to immediately flip the fuck out and be like, why are you wearing that armor?
Right.
You are not Jango Fett.
Who the hell do you think you are? Yeah.
Weird, which was a weird thing considering how like laissez-faire she is about like taking the helmets off and things like that. But I guess it makes sense if you think about it in that context.
Well, the last time she heard a clone voice was probably over comms during the Purge of Mandalore. So there's some trauma there. There's some negative associations there. But can we talk about every single word Boba Fett says in this scene and how all of it is sexy as hell?
Oh, God.
My God, if I could have him on a loop saying little one, that would be fucking great. Just what, sir? Oh, my God.
just gonna take that little clip in isolation. I'm gonna use it later for things we are not gonna talk about.
All over TikTok. All over TikTok. If you want Boba Fett clips where he's saying little one and he's saying princess, yeah. Thank you, Tamara Morrison. That was well done, sir. Oscar.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Like one of the reasons I was actively opposed to the return of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, me too.
One of the reasons I have come around on it is because of Tamara Morrison.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One thing I really liked about this scene is they did take a moment to utilize the fact that they've got a professional wrestler on set.
Yes.
And we do, in fact, get a tornado DDT pulled on Boba Fett, and it is amazing. Love it.
I have mentioned, Bradley, to you several times that we keep accidentally bringing on guests who are more qualified for the episode than I think they are.
Right.
Oh.
When I brought Stef on for a specific reason, it was not because Sasha Banks pulls some sick wrestling moves. But now that we have someone who formerly ran Ringside Divas here.
It is true. It is true. That was our ignoble first outing as a podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
She's
we
so
did, in
cool.
fact. She's fucking
so
cool. She's so fucking cool. She's been a professional wrestler for 11 years. And say what you will about wrestling being fake, sure. But they are world-class athletes putting their bodies through ridiculous levels of punishment daily. Because the daily schedule of a professional wrestler is nonstop. It's constant. And so, yeah, she did use a stunt double for stuff in this because she actually had access to a stunt double, because there's no stunt double in professional wrestling. That's all her all the time. She was like, yes, if somebody else could fucking get hit, that would be great for once. But yeah, no, her physicality is undeniable. She is 5.5 feet of destruction, and I love her.
She's recently said that she is not going to be returning for season 3.
No, I saw that. It makes me sad.
My suspicion is, if you read some of the interviews that she's talked about the scheduling, it does not seem like certain. Now she's in which wrestling is she, WWE or WWE?
Yes.
So that's the one that's run by Vince McMahon, right?
Yeah, I mean, ostensibly.
Okay. I wanted to double check before I slagged him off on the air.
I mean, go ahead.
I'm pretty
excuse
sure the reason that
fine.
Mercedes Varnado is not coming back for season 3 is because it sounds like accommodations were not made for her schedule-wise. That she was balancing Mando's season 2 with her professional wrestling, which is also why she had the stunt doubles. Because she had to go from professional wrestling to shooting this. And I don't know a lot about wrestling, but I know how much of a piece of shit Vince McMahon is.
Lord. Yes, he is.
That has made its way even to me. Bradley's giving me this look like I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Imagine like Donald Trump with a higher IQ. It's about the sort of, but a lot of that is just his on-screen persona. He's not entirely like that off-screen from what I understand, but like kinda. It's a whole other thing. This is not a wrestling podcast. Let's rein it back in. Yeah, Star Wars, huh?
No, we could. I'm sure we could wander off onto a tangent. I don't know anything about professional wrestling.
If you
but
listen
I can
closely, you can hear Chris screaming, screaming at his phone right now. I love it. Love it. This gives me chills. Anyway, so Mando's like, "Hey, Bo-Katan, I need your help. Would you come and help me?" Right? That's what happens.
I find it interesting that Boba Fett uses the line. So previously on an episode of The Thing Charles Fucked Up, I made a comment way back at the beginning of season 2. There was something like the Empire like glassed the planet or something. Then I went and double checked. And I went, oh no, the planet's unlivable because of the Jedi. That they were the ones that rendered it unlivable, and that they had just like wiped out all life outside of these domes that the Mandalorians live in, and that was the reason for it. And then we get to this episode, and Boba Fett's like, "Oh, the Empire turned his planet to glass," and I'm like, "What did they do to it?"
Right.
What happened?
So I have a theory.
Okay.
Way back in Clone Wars, there is George Takei has a guest spot where he is the most deliciously chubby Nemoidian, and he is testing a weapon that he calls the defoliator. Like that's how it's George Takei. So you have to defoliator. You really got to get in deep with it. But it is a weapon that destroys all organic matter in an area and leaves all synthetic life, like your droid army, intact. And he's just testing it on this planet, and some adorable lemur people were being threatened by it. And so Aayla Secura and again, you know what? That's a Clone Wars thing. Anyway, so my theory is that weapon got put into a global scale situation because Mandalore wasn't great anyway. Like during the Clone Wars, the surface of Mandalore was pretty fucked up from their own
Jedi.
wars. Well, it was also from their war with the Jedi, but also with them fighting each other. Like the Mandalorians kind of jacked up their own planet too, like that poor planet, right? So, my theory is the defoliator got juiced up and employed on Mandalore. Probably the same type of weapon, whatever they used on Geonosis, because Geonosis is uninhabitable on the surface too.
Yeah, because the Empire does forcibly sterilize Geonosis. When they move the Death Star away from it and they move from using Geonosians for construction,
they just killed everybody and
they just killed everything on the planet. And Rebels shows them finding like this last egg thing, which turns into a queen who goes crazy and tries to build Geonosian cyborgs, and then Darth Vader kills her.
Oh, okay.
And that's the end of the Geonosians.
Is that in the comics?
It is in the comics.
There you go. That sounds like a comics plot.
That's a comics plot.
Okay.
Oh Lord, was it Greg Pak who did the first run of Darth Vader?
Sure.
I care.
You could throw out any combination of names right now.
Sure.
I would agree with you. I do not know.
So yeah, that was at the first run of Darth Vader, written by Katie Lucas.
Okay.
Okay,
Katie Lucas.
And George Takei.
And George Takei with his defoliator.
So
all right.
This was the point that I mentioned. Not Boba Fett. Bo-Katan. God, there's so many Bo names.
Names.
Can we quit with the bows? Yeah, exactly.
Can we quit with the bows, please? Bo-Katan basically tells Mando, she's like, when you're done rescuing the child and you've got all that dealt with, please come and help us reclaim our planet.
Right. Because you're a badass and we like you.
And he's like, okay, I'll think about
it.
And in my brain, I went, there's your season 3 plot.
There's season 3. Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Mando in that moment would have agreed to anything short of giving her the child himself, like anything to get that kid back. And we will see that again later in the episode. He will agree to anything to get that kid back because I love him. Because Space Dilf. Oh,
because that is his child.
I love him so much.
That is his child now.
Yeah.
Pershing's ear. If you look closely in the scene with him,
he got shot.
Fun little design choice. You can actually see the blast where it severed part of his ear.
Oh, he deserves it.
Now, Bradley.
Yes.
I have been putting you off 4 weeks. I think probably 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That I have been putting you off on this. I have promised again and again that I will explain where the Dark Troopers are from. I have been waiting
6 times.
I have been waiting for Pershing to deliver the line, the human inside was the final weakness that needed to be solved.
Ironically, the Dark Troopers are being played by humans inside the suit.
So even more interestingly and ironically than that, Dark Troopers in Legends originated in the game Dark Forces. And as far as the Legends canon was concerned, because Stef, you probably know this, but back in the day, there used to be insane levels of canon.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like it is now where it basically is one canon, but sometimes you might have scenes that are told slightly differently in different mediums.
It was an embarrassment of riches. Like there were so many books, there was so much, and there would be like you would get chased out of a comic shop trying to get away from a debate raging between multiple factions within the fandom about what's canon and what's not canon. And everybody citing the fact that George Lucas was like, anything that's not in the movies isn't fucking canon. And so, but now, thank you, the mouse, for descending upon us and providing structure and order.
It's not perfect, but you can reasonably assume that anything you read, with the exception of stuff they explicitly said is non-canon, you can reasonably assume it's canon. And even the Lego stuff is like canon-ish, canon adjacent. I have my own
I want it all to
that.
be canon because I want the Star Wars universe to be that cute.
I have a theory on that, but we will talk about it in a bonus episode later on. The Dark Troopers, as far as the quote-unquote official canon of Legends was concerned, they had a Phase 0, which was clones that they had put in suits and done things with. And that was the Phase 0, Dark Troopers.
I would like to put clones in suits and do things with them too.
I agree.
So who can blame them?
The Phase 1 and 2 Dark Troopers in Legends were droids. They were droids and then worse droids. Phase 3, which was the final phase of the Dark Troopers in Legends, were the first one after the Phase 0 that they were actual suits. They were able to put people inside them. Canon is literally the exact opposite of this.
It's like the opposite direction.
So this
I was about to say.
Yes. So they had the Phase 0, quote unquote, which were the ones that we see in the Bad Batch.
Okay.
The prototype kind of training droids that we see them use in the Bad Batch. Then they had 2 iterations, which were guys in suits of some description. These are Phase 3 Dark Troopers. They are the first one after the Phase 0 that they have successfully removed the human element from.
Okay.
So they originated in Legends, specifically in Dark Forces, but they worked literally exactly the reverse. Also, I want to make this even worse because somebody said when I was researching this, I think it was Leland Chi said that anytime you see a Dark Trooper in a Legends story that doesn't match up, like in Empire at War or Battlefront 2, you're supposed to assume they're not actually there, that they're just there for gameplay reasons. And I'm like, thank God we have the story.
That is a long walk that Filoni and Favreau went on to get around to. Can we put the cool black robots in the show?
Right.
I want to put the cool Vader looking robots in the show. Like that is over the river and through the fucking woods, but here they are. Let's deal with them.
That's the story of the Dark Troopers. How do you feel about the story of the Dark Troopers, Bradley, now that I've told it to you?
Hopefully we get a scene later on in this episode where they actually do something because you couldn't talk about them for the past 4 episodes. So.
They'll do a few things, I imagine.
So this scene also kind of breaks my plan rule. Did you notice that, Bradley?
Yeah. So Stef, I don't know if you know about his plan rule. He'll explain it for you, but
so the way that I'll ruin every heist movie forever for you now.
Oh God.
So as a general rule of thumb, when you're looking at a screenplay for a scene, if it's a scene where they're going over the plan and they show you the plan happening while they're going over it, then the plan will succeed up until the point that they stop showing you the plan.
Okay.
If they go over the plan and then show the plan starting as 2 separate sequences, it will go wrong basically immediately.
Okay. No, that tracks. It's very Ocean's 11. Okay.
Yes. This scene kind of breaks that because they go over the plan. The plan works up until the point they had planned. And that's the point where the plan starts to go wrong.
Right, because Moff Gideon is a hell of a wild card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's the wrench in the gears here for sure.
Because he's a smug asshole, and I love
him. Bless. But yeah, I really liked them going over the plan. Again, back to the reason why I like the Girl Squad so much, where nobody tried to pull a white knight chivalry move and be like, no, we the men will go in and face the danger, because they would have been in danger in that moment had they proposed such a thing, I do believe, from any of the women in the room. And that was Bo-Katan's show. She laid out the plan. We get to the snag with the fact that there are dark troopers on board. Thank you, Dr. Pershing. You didn't have to volunteer that information.
Pershing doesn't so much, like, it's not a mansplaining thing, so much as I have intel that you don't.
Right.
I'm going to share it with you because I am captive in a room with Boba Fett, Ming-Na Wen, a rebel who wants to like crush my head in her hands,
and could
2 Mandalorians, and the kid's dad.
So
I'm gonna help any way I can.
And he's neutral evil. Like he just wants to get back to the science of it. He doesn't care who's got the baby as long as he gets to poke the baby with needles again at some point, right? Right. Okay. That's all he wants. I don't like him.
It will be interesting to see if he pops up in the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
See if we can get a villain origin story here.
The plan is put into action as the group tries to emergency land on the cruiser. On the bridge, Gideon orders the comms officer to power up the Dark Troopers. Dune, Shan, Bo, and Casca fight their way to the cargo bay while Din sneaks his way in where Grogu is being held.
So did anyone else find it really interesting that I think this may be the first time that, no, it's not the first time, because I think we've seen it somewhere else, but there's 2 ships in a hyperspace corridor together, and you can see both of them and they can see each other.
This is the first time I think we've seen it on screen, possibly.
I want to say that it happened at some point during Clone Wars.
I think either Clone Wars or Rebels.
Yeah, I was thinking Rebels.
Somewhere in animation, I believe it happened, but this is definitely the first time I've seen it in live action. Right. And I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, originally my brain went, wait, how exactly does that work?
How are they seeing each other? How are they talking to each other?
But then I went, well, the way that hyperspace kind of seems to work is you have these like hyperspace corridors and routes. And as long as you're traveling the same direction at the same speed, obviously you're going to see each other as you're moving.
Right.
This is not going to mean a lot to Bradley. And I'm going to be very vague because it is a twist.
My favorite part is that your listeners can't see the look on Bradley's face when you say stuff like that. That's the best part.
Yeah. Our artist, Jordan, who does our artists for TikTok, just did a new series of the animation plates that I use to make our TikToks. She has one of Bradley giving me this look.
Yay.
Which is just perfectly captures just the look that he gives me when I say things like that. But I'm going to be vague because it is a twist in the novel. But Steph, you may remember the destruction of the Legacy run.
I do.
And exactly what causes the destruction of the Legacy run. And I thought it's really interesting that we see these ships together in this hyperspace corridor, like considering what actually was the cause of the great disaster.
Yeah, it felt really dangerous. Like, it's a good thing y'all are friends. Yeah, hanging out here in the hyperspace corridor.
Good thing y'all are moving at the same speed, huh? Good thing you're moving at the same speed through this hyperspace corridor. Good thing one of you isn't moving faster than the other.
So much faster. Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Also, that captain did nothing wrong.
Absolutely nothing. She did everything
in handling that, but we will get to we will get to that in a few weeks.
So I was at first confused. I'm like, why are they cruising together here in the corridor? Because this wasn't part of the plan that we had discussed. But then they come out of hyperspace and it's so that it looks like Boba Fett's chasing them. Okay, I get it.
Which begs the question, if he genuinely was chasing them, would he have been able to fire in hyperspace?
I don't know, because then you're getting into like projectiles going faster than that. And
light?
you know what Star Wars doesn't do? Actual physics, actual science. No, a Jedi would probably be able to do a thing and like a force thing from ship to ship, but I don't see them firing on it, because if ships were able to fire on each other and in hyperspace like that would have happened so many times by now. Like there would be, I don't know. It breaks my brain. You can probably see the smoke coming out of my ears right now. No, I can't.
Watch it happen in Book of Boba,
right?
Or something.
First episode.
And then it's a hyperspace thing, but it'll be like Boba Fett that does it. So shitty men on the internet aren't going to raise a stink about it like they did with certain other things that were done by characters who are not men, which I'm still a little bitter about the reaction to that.
Oh my God.
Watch it happen at some point and they'll explain it.
Every couple of months, that conversation comes back up and I have to make another video calling people a misogynist and because you're being a misogynist, but whatever. Okay.
And then you get tons of engagement, and then it boosts your follower count.
Exactly.
And you win and they lose brain cells.
Every time.
That's how TikTok works.
Love you, social media. You hellscape. Anyway, so yeah, what's going on? There's firing and stuff, right? Something's happening? I don't know.
Yes. So they pop out, and Giancarlo Esposito's face. We need to talk about the control this man has over his face.
Oh my God.
I have done acting in the past, some of it in good situations, some of which I'm a little embarrassed by.
If you're not embarrassed by your past acting jobs, are you even acting?
That's true.
Yes. So I am by no means a professional actor. It's just a thing that I like to do. But I know that the level of control that you have to have over your face, the level of just knowledge you have to have of your own features to pull some of the acting he does where he's conveying his whole process through his eyebrows alone, stunningly good.
He's so good. He's such a go-to bad guy in Hollywood. He's everywhere. He's been in some not so great stuff, some Sci-Fi Channel stuff back in the day, but he's so good. And you're absolutely right. Like the artistry with which he handles just his facial expressions is so eloquent. I love it. And he's such an asshole in this character. It's great.
Because I know, Bradley, you've expressed that he's one of your favorite characters of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always drawn to the villain anyway, because they're always the most interesting characters, right? Like they have the most room to have fun, right? And I think with him, especially in this show, like I think though he doesn't get very many scenes in this show, which I do think is a disappointment, I think the scenes that he does get are so good, and he's so strong in those few scenes that it helps make his character better. And I have a theory that he's going to be more so in the third season as kind of like
I can confirm your theory. Giancarlo Esposito has gone on the record saying that he will be in the third season more than the previous two.
Okay, well, there you go. But I think in a way that's like kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but like he's not going to be the villain, if that makes sense. But he's still going to be like with the team. Does that, you know what I mean? Like, that's my theory.
You know what I'd love to see them do? That would be so fun. I'd love to see them do like a Hannibal Lecter in Red Dragon or Silence of the Lambs thing with him.
Where they have to go and consult with him.
Where they have to go and consult with him.
Right.
Because I'm a sucker for that dynamic.
Oh my God. And he would be constantly manipulating them. Oh,
because he's that kind of character.
He would love it too.
You know what I'm thinking about too? Is I think about it in the same way that I think about in Rebels, where they do the Zeb and Callus storyline, where like
you mean their love story?
Yeah, right.
Yes,
a similar
100%.
You could do a similar thing here, where it's like, he was the villain, right? because technically in the first 2 seasons he's like one of the villains, right?
Mhm.
And then,
Yes, Callus is one of the villains
Yeah,
for the
right,
first
absolutely.
two
and then he
seasons.
transfers over into being helpful and not
Mhm.
evil or whatever he is. So I think it's like a similar thing here. I think Gideon's probably still going to be an asshole, but I don't think he's going to necessarily be like the bad guy.
I think he would need to be deeply betrayed by the Imperial remnant
Right.
in order for that switch to happen, because right now he's a fucking fanatic.
Right.
So there would have to be something astronomical happening.
Now, the real question is, when you say he's a fanatic, the real question is he an actual fanatic? Is Gideon out for the Empire, or is Gideon out for Gideon?
Right now, there's not a difference between the two for him.
Right.
I don't think.
So he's preaching this fanaticism to his loyal followers and these young men that he has recruited to his cause and pumped their ears full of this fanatical, the rebels were terrorists, the New Republic is illegitimate, the galaxy is falling apart without the Empire, we need to put the white men back in charge, otherwise everything will be bad.
Which is a weird message coming from him.
Which the question is, does he really believe this? Or is this the best way to, quote unquote, unite both the Imperial remnant and people in the galaxy who are going to be sympathetic to that? And when he's in a position where that is not the most advantageous thing for him to do, how will he react to that?
I can't wait to find out. Because he's
Season 3,
damn delight. He's a delight. Love him.
The guy who is playing the like gunnery officer down at the deck, his name is Gabriel Ebert. He was another one of those that I looked at his list of credits, and he's got a lot of small roles over a lot of different TV shows and films.
This is the guy who's like trying to stop the TIE fighters from going out because there's a Lambda class shuttle coming in.
Correct. So I wanted to shout him out. And then additionally, on a previous episode, we had talked about the comms officer and who plays the comms officer.
She's so pretty.
She is. And we had shouted her out, and that she was also on an episode of Pink Milk. So shout out Brian. But Bradley, you had said in the intervening time that we hadn't gone over her list of credits, and you'd found something interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we have. I mean, somebody's probably like being like, well, in the first episode, you guys said this already. You know what I mean? So maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But I just
fuck off, it's our show.
So 2 things. One, I did want to say this is the 4th appearance of the comms officer. So she still doesn't have a name, but she's appeared 4 times in this show. And it's like, girl, like, let's get her a name.
Okay, but didn't she die on the bridge in this episode?
Fennec Shan shoots her in the back, which
she's never going to have a name now.
Which I'm not happy to see that character go, but if she's going to go, I think we all would like to be killed by Ming-Na Wen.
Yes, please.
Right.
Yeah,
I think this is acceptable for all of us.
Interesting. Yep. Okay, well, anyway, I like shouting her out. I guess if this is her last episode, this is the time to be, make a big deal about her. So yes, Katie O'Brien. So she was also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's in 3 episods of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes. My brain just connected her face to it. Put that together.
She's this close to having the Disney trifecta. Technically, she has it if you count being killed by Ming-Na Wen. So, but she's this close. So we just need her to get something else, like something Disney, and then she's golden. Like she's our golden child.
There you go.
But on the Charles side of things, Charles is obsessed with a very particular show, and she happens to be in one episode of this.
Is it How to Get Away with Murder?
It's How to Get Away with Murder.
Yes. Wow. Who did she play?
I have no idea. But she's in that show.
God damn it.
She played like a waiter, I think, or something. I don't know. I can't
fucking remember. Useless twink. You cannot. This is the second time you have to.
Charles, Google is right in front of you. I'm just saying.
I just thought it would be a fun
IMDb.com
to go back and rewatch the show and then be like, well, she might show up at some point. So
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm in the middle of watching The Owl House right now. I've had to put a pause on it because I am marathoning the fuck out of Resistance this weekend. But when I finish Owl House, maybe I will go back and watch How to Get Away with Murder and see if I can spot Axe Woves and the unnamed comms officer.
There you go.
In that show.
So I just thought that was like the only thing I have for this, little bit. I just wanted to bring her up and give her spotlight since this is her last episode.
There you go. Yes. Celebrate her. She's dead. So because the boarding party was enormously successful, like frighteningly successful. They're so fucking good. I love them. They just wreak havoc. I do want to point out Cara Dune's gun, just because it looks like a cock and balls. She's got this giant rifle, which I couldn't find anywhere on Wikipedia. I tried to find out what fucking gun she has. I was able to find every other gun she's used in this series, but not this one. And entering in extremely phallic weapon strangely doesn't pull up a whole lot, or in fact too many results, but it really does. It's got the two like chambers like right there, like there's the barrel and then the two chambers at the end of it. I'm like, how are we not giggling like 12-year-olds through the entire shoot of this episode? Because that right there is a cock and balls.
Steph, if the gun looks like a cock and balls, then that explains why it jams. It doesn't work for half the time.
Touche.
That was the second worst joke I have made on this season 2 recap of Mandalorian. I think the backdoor pilot joke was probably worse, but God, that would. Bradley is like
nicely done,
clawing at his face right now.
Melting. Yeah, but yeah, no, that was it. I just had to point out because the gun made me giggle. So that's all I got. I'm bringing the quality content for you guys.
Of course.
Aren't you glad you had me on?
Oh, I am so glad.
Up next, Din reaches the cargo bay just as the droids complete their power-up. He closes the door just in time, but one droid breaks through. Everything he tries on the droid has no effect, especially his flamethrower. But he is able to take the droid down with his Beskar spear. He then sends all the Dark Troopers out into space.
Yes, Din Djarin versus my Bionicle collection.
That is what they look like. That is 100%
exactly
what they look like.
what they fucking look like.
They do, actually.
They do. They look exactly like if this had come out
Bionicle,
If this had come out in 2004, you just know they would have had like a Bionicle, like with the stiff joints moving.
There would have been a crossover
Dark
for
Troopers.
Sure. Yep.
They would have absolutely done it.
So I want to argue in defense of the flamethrower.
Oh, that's fucking brave on the show. That's fucking brave.
But here's the thing. So this Dark Trooper that Din is facing off with and losing magnificently. Yes. Nothing, like all of his wonderful toys that he's got, nothing is working. And so he resorts to the goddamn flamethrower. Because something's got to work. It's that moment where you're in an RPG and you're like, something in this inventory is going to work. Just going to click through all of it, throw a ham at you, just anything to try and get some kind of victory here, and nothing's working. So he goes for the flamethrower, and the Dark Trooper has that moment where he like turns and he's all on fire, Terminator style, and it looks really cool. But it also burns away this cowl piece that's around his neck, which still exists on the other Dark Troopers. So you can see it burn away. So now all of these gears in the neck are exposed. So now Din knows where to stab him with the spear when he finally is like, fucking Beskar spear, I guess, and does it. It shows a weak point on the Dark Trooper. He might not have known to go for the neck if he hadn't burned that part off first. I'm not saying he burned that part off because he thought that the flamethrower was going to do him any good. There's no way. That was desperation for sure, but it worked.
I will accept this because I was so hyper focused on you just made it Terminator on fire now.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of my favorite twin book series of all time is Max Brooks's Zombie Survival Guide, where he did the parody survival guide for Zombie Apocalypse and then turned around and wrote an actual oral history called World War Z. Movie was garbage.
Yeah.
absolute fucking garbage, except for the fact that they credited Peter Capaldi as Who Doctor several years before certain other roles he would take. Also, two side notes. The audiobook has Mark Hamill in a prominent role because of course it does.
Of course it does.
And also, you guys cannot see my Zoom recording, but
no,
you can actually see World War Z in the corner on my bookshelf if you were to watch these Zoom recordings back.
Nice.
But the reason I bring it up is one thing he points out in that book when he's Fate giving advice is he says, don't listen to Night of the Living Dead. Don't light the zombies on fire because the zombies don't feel pain.
Right.
And fire takes time to burn through them. So all you have now done is you now have a zombie that can set anything it touches on fire.
Right.
And that's what I thought was happening with the Dark Trooper when I saw this scene is congratulations, you now have an indestructible Dark Trooper. Also, it's just on fire now.
Right.
But I will grant you that, okay, fine, it does burn away the cowl, which sort of asks the question, if the fire could burn away the cowl and expose the gearing, wouldn't the Beskar spear have penetrated it as well?
But he wouldn't have known that it was a weak point. Like he wouldn't have had visibility on where exactly to stab unless look, I'm trying to justify the flamethrower here because I like flamethrowers. Because fire fun. And the flamethrowers are mainly an anti-Jedi weapon. So he was just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Because he had no other options. Nothing else was working. The whistling birds didn't work. The whistling birds always work.
No one has ever expressed, I don't think I've ever heard it expressed before that the flamethrower is an anti-Jedi weapon. That's an interesting thought because we see in Rebels that fire and Jedi don't mix very well.
Yeah. You can't lightsaber a fire. And you can only force shooby-doo-dooby-doo a fire. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. A fire for so long. Right. And a lot of the Mandalorian weapons are developed specifically for fighting Jedi because, their history is what it is. And so they are weapons that are designed to throw too many things at a Jedi for them to be able to deflect, to overwhelm their senses, to give them something they have to dodge. So they'll go somewhere else and stuff like that to control a Jedi's movements and such. So like the grappling hooks and the flamethrowers and all of that stuff. So
I hate how
you
much
look so confused.
I hate how much Bradley is going to hold this over my head. Because we have now done, counting the episode 0 recap at episode 0, we have now done, this will be our 21st episode of covering The Mandalorian. I believe, if I'm doing my math right, Kyle is not here to correct me.
Okay.
This is literally the first time anyone has ever explained the flamethrower to me in a way that makes sense.
Well, then there you go.
And this smug asshole, when we get into Book of Boba in season 3, I know that every time I complain about the flamethrower, he's now going to be like, well, Charles, it's a weapon designed to hurt the Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's designed to do that.
Facts are facts.
Yeah, that's just because I said one would think that you might take this moment to learn not to bitch about the flamethrower anymore.
Well, here's the thing about that, Stef.
I think so.
I am a man who expresses Star Wars opinions on the internet.
I am There's no
socially and biologically not allowed and unable to learn anything or reevaluate anything at all. I have to keep the same opinion.
No, that's
toxic
fair.
As it might be, and any challenge to that, I have to double down. Otherwise, that is a challenge to me as a human person because I've tied my identity so much to this Space Wizard franchise for literal fucking children.
You're walking around with a Cara Dune rifle betwing your legs.
Exactly.
You have to do these things.
I have to defend that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll jam. And then where are we going to be? Don't listen to anything I say later on in the episode where I talk about my opinion of how certain moments have changed. Because the other thing I do as a man who talks about Star Wars things on the internet is I never, ever, ever keep consistency in the things that I say.
It's okay. I haven't listened to a word you said yet, so we're good. Okay. So yeah, the fight with the Dark Trooper, that went really well. But I like that Mando has the spear on him and used it to stunning effect. That went very well.
So Bradley's favorite character, no idea why, because he latches on to these minor characters that no one cares about, is Captain Phasma, who, as we know, uses a spear of some description in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that we've had when the spear showed up in The Jedi is, do we think this is the same spear?
Surely there's more than one spear in the Star Wars universe.
True. I mean,
but it's the Star Wars universe.
So there's only one spear. Right? No, I feel you, because there's only like one Force-using family in the Star Wars universe.
Exactly.
There's one Corellian class freighter in the Star Wars universe. There's one Wookiee. Right. Yeah, no. So it's entirely possible. I don't know. Totally apparently Phasma has a book. So if there...
Yes.
So there is a book that is just called Phasma.
There is. I have read it. Bradley has not, because he does not know how to read.
I've heard that. Yeah. That maybe this would be a really good time to learn, though, because if it's a book about your favorite character, I haven't read it either, but Darth Chaco tried really hard to get me to read it. And he was telling me that it's a deep dive, of course, into Phasma's character. And she is, she's not an Empire or a First Order loyalist. She's a Phasma loyalist. And so she's just a badass. And
funny thing about that is, so when they wrote the Phasma book and the comic, the 5-issue comic, they were given the screenplay.
You could do a comic. A comic is like a book, but it has pictures.
Yes. I've been working on it. I'm trying to get him on Phasma.
Honey, at this point, he's not going to do it because you insist on it so hard. Now he's never gonna. I see that. I feel you. Yeah. No.
That's every gay does that. Like, you tell them to do something, they're going to do the opposite. So
smug fucking twink.
Right. No, I mean, like, I'll tell you though, like, I even went so far as to buy the Thrawn book, which is one of my favorite characters, and I read like the first couple chapters of the book and then gave up because I just don't like to read. So
you tried an audiobook. Yeah.
I know. I thought about it.
According to Chris, the audiobook for the High Republic, the audiobook reader is excellent. I know he's cute because I Googled him in the middle of an episode recently.
I remember listening to that episode.
Very cute. He's got a very nice beard.
Oh yeah. He was also in Dooku Jedi Lost, which is another way I've been trying to get Bradley into things by, like, well, maybe you could listen to this audio drama. It has Asajj Ventress in it. God, I love her. But okay. She was actually, when she wrote the book, it's Delia S. Dawson, I think, that wrote the book. She was given the deleted scene of Phasma, and that's what she was working with. And then they replaced that scene with the death scene that's actually in the film. So that's why it feels like the book and the comic are building up to a character that we don't really see. They cut that scene from the film and replaced it. But the spear that she uses, I'm wondering if, like, the First Order got its hands on the spear. Somehow it's the same spear.
If it is the same spear, then it's much like the Darksaber. How the hell did Moff Gideon get his hands on the Darksaber? How the hell would the First Order get their hands on the spear? That might be one of those plot points that we hand wave. So we don't know. And maybe at some point in the future, we will make a comic book about it.
Story for another day.
For another day.
Right. Up next, after Din finally destroys the Dark Trooper, he reaches the cell holding Grogu to find Moff Gideon with the Darksaber over him. He tries to fight Mando and loses, with Mando keeping him alive per Bo-Katan's request. They make it back to the bridge, to Bo's disappointment. The alarm sounds as the Dark Troopers board the cruiser and make their way to the blast doors.
Dank Ferrix at 8.
Are you counting your Dank Ferrix?
So wait, did we miss one?
Our Dank Ferrix.
Yeah, there was a Dank Ferrix.
There was a Dank Ferrix earlier when her gun jammed, right?
Yeah.
It's in this sequence. It's between the Dark Trooper fight and the scene. You didn't mention the sequence where they take the bridge in your summary. So I included it here.
Okay.
That the Dank Ferric counter, they're the same number of Dank Ferrics that there are episodes in this season. We have counted all of the Dank Ferrics.
Nice.
There are 8 of them.
Okay.
I like it. I like
I
it.
thought it was more.
Because when we come up with a counter, we actually count them.
You actually count them? Fuck that.
Right.
One of our counters is the Anakin Skywalker red flag counter. We don't have that many numbers.
But Steph, I can't bring you on the show and not throw shade. That would be inappropriate to the Dark Side Divas brand.
Absolutely. No, I accept it. Yes. Very well done.
Our Dank Ferret counter, end of episode 8, is sitting at episode 16 rather, is sitting at 8.
Interesting.
That's some good
compared
data.
to season 1, which was only 1.
I think the one, I would have to double check all of my notes for the season.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that 8 does include the one from season 1.
Oh, it does. Okay.
I'm pretty sure we counted all Dank Ferrics. Now, at some point, we're going to do Rebels. And both Bradley and I have said
Carabast.
That we want to count the number of times that the literal underage minors murder people. That would be a fun counter.
Man, yeah.
Yeah. So Gideon is ISB.
Mm-hmm.
And
hey, what does ISB stand for?
Imperial, it's the Imperial Security Bureau. It is their CIA and FBI and NSA that's rolled up into one. He is an intelligence officer. Gotcha. And it's done super, super clear when he's like, yes, I know all of the things all of the time because that is what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Right.
It's my job. It's my function. I really love, hats off for the bajillionth time in my life to Pedro Pascal for acting through the helmet. Because he's like, all right, I finally got to the cell. Haha, I get in. And then the oh shit moment that you see where he takes in the situation. And you can see him go, there's my kid. Shit, there's Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon's got a sword. It's a glowing sword. Like there's a lot happening here. You can see a lot of wheels turning behind that visor. And he does such a good job with that. Such a good job. There's a lot of reassessing.
Yeah, and this was the moment that you talked about earlier when you said Den is prepared to say whatever to get the kid back.
Yeah.
Because Gideon's like, here's the deal. I have what I want. You can have the kid. I will leave. Obviously, he's not going to do that. Obviously, he's lying.
Right.
And Den's like so hyper-focused on the kid that he's like, yeah. Sure, whatever.
He's like, yeah, you keep the saber. I don't give a shit. I don't care what I agreed to with Bo-Katan earlier. I don't care. I don't care. Give me my kid. And to the point where he forgets like all of his survival badassery that he's had for 2 seasons up to this point and gets within arm's reach of Moff Gideon and gets him on his blind side to where he's off to the side. And he's got to because he just wants to pick up his kid. And that's the thing is kids will get you fucking killed.
And that
other 2 children will get you killed.
That clearly was Gideon's plan. That it was apparent the lure him in, attack him, Mando would kill him, Mando would get the Darksaber. There would be no way to rectify the situation. Then Mando leaves him alive.
Yeah. Wait, do you think Gideon's plan was to get killed by Mando right then?
He expresses genuine surprise that Mando does not kill him in that moment.
But I don't think his plan in attacking Mando was, I'm going to get this guy to kill me. I do think that in attacking Mando, he was like, one of us is dying, but he fully expected it to be Mando.
Right.
Because he was going to sucker punch him in the side of the head with the Darksaber. I don't think he expected that Darksaber to bounce off the Beskar. I feel like that was very frustrating for him.
You would think he would be more knowledgeable about the Darksaber and know I have one chance. Maybe I should. But now that I'm saying it out loud, my thought is possibly he just sucks with the Darksaber.
He's not a swordsman.
Like he's going for an unarmored part, and his plan was to whack Mando in the back and kill him and escape. And he missed. Because he sucks with this.
Well, I mean, he's an intelligence officer. He's certainly not been trained in the wielding of a lightsaber, let alone a very specialized lightsaber like the dark saber, with its flat blade and all of its booja booja, its enormous history, etc. It's a collector's item. It's a trinket for him. He's got it because it's power, right? Not because he has any idea really how to use it, and he does well enough, because it is such a powerful weapon in the situation. And from what I understand, I was watching some behind the scenes stuff because it's so good. Giancarlo Esposito went really hard in those scenes when it wasn't the stunt double, because we do see his face a lot. Like when he's carving along the wall and the sparks are flying, you can see it in his face, and he's just, he's really getting into his villainy in that moment. He went so hard in that fight scene, they almost ran out of prop dark sabers to be able to film the scene because he kept breaking them. Right. So, actors.
The interesting thing that he says, though, is, we've asked before, why is he studying blood? But then he says his blood has the potential to bring order back to the galaxy. And I kind of perked up and I went, why do they need high M count blood to bring a first order back to the galaxy? What are they doing with this blood exactly?
They're making Palpatine. It's going in a Palpatine smoothie.
It's all the final order.
It's either that or they're making Snokes. They're trying to make Snokes out of it.
And which are Palpatine vessels, which we will find out in the plot twist in the sequel trilogy that makes my eyes roll so far back in my head I can see out the back of my skull.
Well, that's what Dave does, is he takes movies that make absolute no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, here is 7 seasons of connective tissue for you to make this make sense for you.
I'm going to throw some nuance at it and hope to God it makes sense now. So now that happens. But I really liked the fight scene between Mando and Gideon. It was never going to go Gideon's way.
No.
Like, congratulations on your shiny armor, sir, but you're a spy. You're not a fighter, and that's all Mando does. That's all he's done his whole life.
He kills things. That's what he does. He's going to kill you in 10 seconds.
Right.
Except he doesn't, and Gideon was legitimately surprised and then amused. So smugly amused. I love how funny he thought that shit was. He's like, oh, I can't wait.
Like,
please take me to Bo-Katan.
Please take me to Bo-Katan immediately.
He's like, I'm so glad I'm alive to see this conversation. Let's go. Where's the bridge? Is it this way? Let's go.
Right.
Fun note about Bo-Katan, by the way, when they bring him to Bo-Katan. Did either of you pick up on the pose that Bo-Katan is standing in?
Yes, the Star Wars bad intentions pose.
She's doing the Darth Vader pose.
Yes, where you're looking out the window and you got your hands folded behind your back. Yeah. Yeah, that's a dark side pose right there. Mm-hmm. She's not a good person. This is a good time to remind ourselves of Bo-Katan's history over the animated series and how she's not a good person.
No.
She's not. She's awful. I love her. She's awful.
She started out as a terrorist extremist.
Right.
And she didn't really evolve a whole lot beyond that.
Only stopped doing that because her leader made compromises that put an outsider in a position to seize control. And she was like, no, I'm actually so extremist that I'm not cool with this. I'm going to go back to my sister now. And
I don't want to work for him. Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm rather team up with my sister and Obi-Wan, even though I clearly still don't like them.
Yeah, she's awful.
So,
but I love it. I love that in the Filoniverse, female characters are allowed to be awful and swim around in the gray area.
Right.
Love it. Instead of literally wearing white or a gold bikini for their entire existence on screen.
Well, this is leading credence into my my theory that, like, I don't think Gideon is the villain of the 3rd season. I think it could end up being Bo-Katan is the actual villain of the 3rd
It would
season.
not take much
for
her to decide that she needs to hunt Mando down and that working with him isn't going to work anymore, and that that it has to come to a fight. And then
100%.
who knows? Maybe we need to make friends with Moff Gideon. You hang out.
Hey.
And maybe there will be like a scene where everybody has to take their shirts off, and then there's Boba and Mando and Moff Gideon, and they're like, I don't know, like in a sweat lodge or like a sauna, you know, just gotta.
Please give us this. Please give us this. Just for us. You can do it in the Marvel movies. You can give us the random gratuitous shirtless scenes in those.
Yeah. I guess, what's the problem?
I
mean, the armor's great. Don't get me wrong. The armor works for me. However, I would like to see more, please.
We only know one thing about what happened on this bridge after the end of the scene where it ends. And that is that Fennec Shand walked off of it.
Yeah.
Because she's in the stinger. All we know is that Fennec Shand walked off of that bridge. We have no idea what happened afterwards.
Right. Like, where's Dr. Pershing? Last time we saw him, he was on Slave One. Yep. Where's he?
Is this going to be in the Boba show?
There's one thing that I want to getting back to the real quick, just one detail from back in the cell with little baby Grogu. When he's sitting there with a darksaber above his head, wearing the teeny tiniest little pair of handcuffs. You see the baby size handcuffs? Who makes baby size handcuffs? Like, what Amazon service is delivering baby size handcuffs out to this end of the galaxy? Like, and who puts in that order and doesn't go, we might be the bad guys?
I was speculating in our episode 6 that like the Empire, when they have these brigs, they have like a closet full of different sized handcuffs now. Because I guess on the Death Star, the handcuffs didn't quite fit everyone because they kind of seem like they don't fit Chewbacca that well.
Right.
And then Luke seem a little big for him when he's walking around on the Death Star too.
He is a little short for a stormtrooper.
Maybe the Empire invested in like just a wall of different handcuffs.
Maybe these handcuffs were actually intended for like Kowakian monkey lizards, and Grogu's wrist just happened to be the same size. But
or Babu Fricks.
Yeah, right.
Whatever a Babu Frick is.
He just seems a little teeny tiny little, really? Baby size handcuffs, huh? You guys really are the bad guys.
Maybe they looked at the Ewoks and were like, maybe we should have different sized restraints because
or their infants.
Yeah, it's a 3 foot tall, 3 foot tall little creature, but like it also murdered and cannibalized a bunch of our forces.
They're very dangerous.
So maybe we should start.
They will make musical instruments out of our skulls. Anyway, I just wanted to point out the baby handcuffs because that was adorable. And he still looks so cute.
Up next, another alarm sounds as a lone X-Wing fighter docks on the ship. On the security monitors, we see a hooded figure making their way through the ship. They watch as the green lightsaber destroys the dark troopers one by one as the Jedi makes their way to the bridge. The group opens up the blast doors to reveal Luke Skywalker has come for Grogu. Din and Grogu say their goodbyes as Din shows the child his face for the first time. Grogu meets R2-D2 and Luke picks him up as Din watches them walk away with tears in his eyes.
You describe it so flatly like that. It does not convey, like the music is still playing in my head.
Yeah. So when the X-Wing flies up and they're like, an X-Wing, just one X-Wing, and Cara Dune's like, oh, one X-Wing, we're saved. Yeah, you are, bitch. You're fucking saved. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I was in denial the first time we watched this, even though every tiny little clue led to obviously that's going to be Luke Skywalker coming in. I was like, no, surely not. No, I hadn't bought into it's going to be Plo Koon. God, so hard to say his name. Plo Koon. I hadn't bought into that misdirection propaganda that they had put out, but I was like, I guess I was, because when did this come out? Like we're like clearly mid-pandemic.
We are mid-pandemic.
When like we're in the depths of the doldrums of the existential crisis.
Yeah, this started airing around October of 2020. And this was a point that we made in our episode 0 that Rise of Skywalker came out in late 2019. We got the final season of Clone Wars in like March, and then we hadn't had any Star Wars after that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So it was a very, and this came out in the middle of the 2020 election.
Yeah. So, you know, we get to this and we're watching, like, it's a green lightsaber. We can see it. Like, he's got a glove on his hand. Like, obviously it's going to be who it's going to be. But I was still in denial until he took his hood down, because reality doesn't love me that much. Good things aren't happening to anybody. Why would my heart be made whole in this moment? No, that doesn't happen. And then he took his hood down and everything was wonderful.
I specifically, so a little behind the scenes on how we put this season of recaps together is the 4 guests that we've had on the show. All of them I have asked to do specific episodes. So they did not pick the episodes. I specifically asked each guest to come on to do a particular episode. The reason I asked Stef to come for this one was because I listened to the Dark Side Divas episodes that were recorded right after Stef saw it for the first time.
Oh, I don't remember what I said.
Basically what you just said.
Oh.
You loved this so much.
So wholeheartedly.
And I was like, I want to bring somebody on that wholeheartedly loved this to give their perspective on it. Because when I first watched it, I did not.
Oh, wow. Who hurt you?
So many men.
And they're all named Luke.
The magic of this moment was just so, like, I rewatched it twice today in preparation for this, teared up both times because he's the hero. He's the only hero, like big, like fucking space wizard, magical, epic hero's journey hero that we've got in the galaxy right now. Of course, he's the only one that we as the audience would allow Din to hand this baby over to and be okay with it. Like, I wasn't okay with him possibly handing him over to Ahsoka, because I'm like, she's got issues. Like, do you know who her master was? You don't know, because you don't know shit, Din Djarin. You really don't. You grew up in a cult. So you're a homeschool kid. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, Galactic Google is a thing. Saying he could have done a little bit of research, but no, having Luke Skywalker show up here was so magical that I was able to overlook his zombie face.
Yes. So that was so my journey when I watched this sequence for the first time and then coming into now. My journey has been when the X-Wing, I knew somebody was coming.
Right.
And Bradley will attest to this, because it may shock people, but Bradley and I did not start talking to each other about Star Wars when the podcast started. This has been happening for a long time. I was like, I'll bet you anything it's going to be Snoke.
Yep.
Snoke is going to hear him and take this baby away. That's going to be the in-season twist.
I'm sorry, is this like Star Wars via The Walking Dead? Like, is that the kind of level of disaster you were expecting?
I was convinced that that Snoke was going to come back. And like that he was going to show up the way he shows up in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic, which wasn't out at the time, but when he's presenting himself as a good guy, because we know that Leia had some sort of interaction with him where he was pretending to be a good guy. I was like, he's going to show up, he's going to pretend to be a Jedi, he's going to take Grogu away. Then the X-Wing flies across the screen. And I'm like, well, maybe Ahsoka's come back. Like, it never even hit my mind. And then I saw the Kate move and I went, oh, yeah. And as he's cutting through the Dark Troopers, at the time I was watching it at midnight. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just an easy way to dispose of this threat.
Yeah.
That's just come in and again, we're not talking about what I feel now. We're talking about what I felt at the time. I went, well, this is an easy way to resolve this problem that you've spent multiple episodes setting up. Then he shows up and it's like the CGI face, which looks terrible on the phone, by the way. Still looks terrible on your phone if you're watching it on that, which I was at the time.
It doesn't look good on a TV either. It looks marginally better, but like
comes in and takes the child away. And I'm like, then R2 shows up, and I was glad to see R2, but I was like,
right.
This is fanboy nonsense.
Yeah.
This is pandering, ridiculous pandering. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up on the original trilogy. This is ridiculous pandering. Having watched it now, with the benefit of having analyzed this season more in depth on this show, when it happened on my first rewatch, which I did at work yesterday. Remember how I talked about I was doing things at work yesterday? One of the things I was doing was crying. This part. Because with the foresight of really diving into every episode of the season, yes, obviously he's going to find a Jedi at the end. And yes, obviously that Jedi is going to be Luke.
There's really not another one.
There really is not anybody else who could come in and take this kid. Now, I will note here that I love the interpretation that Brian has from Pink Milk, because he also disliked this, but for very different reasons. He didn't like that Luke comes in and separates a child from his father, essentially.
Okay.
And views it, but he raised the point, and I was like, I kind of love this thought. Back in the Jedi episode, Ahsoka, who was trained by the actual original Jedi Order, says, no, his attachment is too strong. This is going to cause problems. I can't train him. Better let his abilities fade away.
Right.
Then comes Luke, who was not necessarily trained to the degree that Ahsoka was, who comes in and is giving the more Jedi line, where he says, you need to give the child over so that he can be trained. Bad things he needs to have training. He's emulating like the old Jedi, and that is a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. Luke's attitude of, I need to be a Jedi and say the Jedi things without internalizing the mistakes of the Jedi in this era, is going to directly lead to the catastrophic fuck up that is going to happen in a few years.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, correct. Agreed.
Because he's giving the same speech that a Jedi Seeker would give to the parents of a child.
Yeah.
Steph, I don't know if you would catch this, because you guys have done Children of the Force, right? The kidnapping the children.
Where Palpatine had his big plan where he was going to send Cad Bane to kidnap children.
So the Seekers, what they would do, the Jedi Seekers, is they would come in and they would say the same thing Luke did. They would say, look, you don't have to give the kid up. We're not going to force you to do it. But this kid has phenomenal cosmic powers.
Right.
And on the one hand, it's your duty to the Republic. But on the other hand, if this kid doesn't get proper training, bad things will happen, and you cannot take care of him, which... Ooh.
Yeah.
Luke in this moment.
Well, he's very full of himself. He did just he's riding high on that whole hero of the New Republic hubris that he has to have developed in order to fuck up hard enough to make Kylo Ren happen later, to be a part of that whole catalyst. So I think it's entirely appropriate for him to come in and be like, look, I'm the only one that's got the solutions to your problems here. Give me your child.
Absolutely. That's the Jedi as interpreted by somebody who has never met an actual Jedi more than about a grand total of a few weeks thing to say, which let me get a sip of my coffee again here. I just find it interesting.
He's not taking a sip of his coffee.
There's no coffee left.
There's nothing.
There's nothing left. I just find it interesting how some people are like, this is the perfect Luke Skywalker that we deserved. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
this guy is arrogant as hell. He's pulling the Return of the Jedi mannerism, like props to Max Lloyd-Jones, Bradley's childhood crush.
And congratulations to him on his face. My God, sir. I didn't realize that we had something that pretty hiding behind that zombie face.
Right.
Too pretty for me, not for me, but thank you. But he really does look like Michelangelo's David came to life and decided to be in a Star Wars show.
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Props to him, because like this is definitely stuff he was doing under the Luke Skywalker digital mask. He's doing the facial movements and things from Return of the Jedi. It's that era of it where he's trying to lean into it.
Where Luke was so eerily self-possessed in Return of the Jedi, where he's like, I am so calm. Look at me being a very calm Jedi. I'm trying so hard right now to be so calm. And like, this is what Jedi are like, right? Right? I know. Some Jedi, the assholes are. So,
I've met two of the most asshole Jedi.
One of whom was a chaos goblin who lived in a swamp, which, by the way, R2 rolls out and sees a tiny Yoda, and R2's like, oh, this is adorable.
Actually, so I want to give an alternate moment.
Okay.
Is that R2 canonically swears with every alternate word. So I assumed that R2 comes rolling out and, what the fuck is this tiny little fucking chaos goblin? What the fuck did Yoda shoot it into in order to get this thing?
There's another one. There's a little one.
Grogu's just like, oh, it's beeping.
But he did the Yoda,
the happy dance.
He did the R2 happy dance where he hops back and forth a little bit. He was so happy to see this kid. And I really feel like R2's the purity of R2's response to him is what calmed Grogu down, because Grogu was really worried about this. He was like, Dad, really? And I'm going to go, because Luke Skywalker, not a welcoming visage in that moment, head to toe in dramatic black and Chanel boots. And he's like with his super calm, dead zombie face. Okay, about the zombie face. Did you guys see the deep fake that a fan made?
Yes.
It's good.
It's really good. There's a reason they fucking hired him.
Yeah.
It's so good. His name is Shamook on the YouTubes. And it's really good because it brought back there was a certain je ne sais quoi that was missing from the zombie face. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but Shamook found it. And that was his eyes. Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, bright, bright blue eyes. Always just these beautiful eyes. And they were just flat in the original, but in the deep fake they sparkled, and it was just it was beautiful. But they put the life right back in his face.
Yeah, maybe you just need to make it like just like a hair too fake, like to make it better, like, you know what I mean, like put a little bit of a filter on it just to make it prettier, and then we can believe it more, you know what I mean? Like
it's like Tarkin in Rogue One, the way they did Tarkin in Rogue One, where it's just kind of not pristine enough that once you get over the initial shock of, oh, they're not going to do this in the window. Oh, they're actually going to turn around and we're full on going to see Peter Cushing's face.
Right.
Once you get past that, in later scenes, you can almost believe that he's there.
Right.
You never quite forget that it's a digital model.
Right.
But you can make yourself believe that he's there. As opposed to this, where when I watched it on my phone for the first time in bed, I thought it was Sebastian Stan.
I really feel like Sebastian Stan would have been a good choice.
How do you guys rank this in the 3 digital faces in Star Wars? Where do you guys rank the Luke face?
This is the worst one.
Yeah.
Really?
This is which is terrible because it's the most recent one. They should have the best technology.
That's interesting.
Maybe, okay, I would put the Leia face as second.
Yeah.
Second worst. But I think it is because it's a personal reaction, because I know their faces so well.
Right.
And I know, like, I just know, because of endless hours watching the original trilogy, I know every movement of every little muscle in their faces and how their faces react to everything. And like, there is nothing that an animator trying to create that scene can possibly do to match that wealth of knowledge that exists inside every fan's head. We just have a bottomless catalog of what that face is supposed to look like.
Right.
And like, they can only do the surface of it. And then it's descend sharply into the uncanny valley. So, but I still cried. So they still win.
Worked, yeah.
It worked.
It worked.
Oh, I wept.
There's two other major things that I want to talk about, although I will sneak in the middle here that I actually kind of freeze framed it. And if you look really closely in the scene where the X-Wing is flying across, you can see R2-D2 in it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a little freeze frame.
I was gonna say, before you get into that, I want to just throw a little fun fact in there with R2-D2.
Okay.
Before we get too off topic, I saw a fan convention video of Ming-Na Wen at I don't know where it was. It was one of those conventions, right? She's at a panel, and she was talking about
such a Star Wars nerd. I love her.
I love her so much. I saved the video on TikTok, I think, and it was of her, and she's talking about how they were filming the finale and how when they brought in the R2-D2 model robot thing, right, it was green, not blue. That's right. And she was talking about how she was like looking at it, and she went up to Dave and she went up to John, and she was like, "That's R2-D2." And they're like, "What? No, it's not. He's green. He's not.
It's a green astromech."
Right. And then she was like, "Guys,
that is an R2 model astromech
guys,
droid.
We're doing Luke Skywalker, aren't we?" And then like they didn't say anything, and she was the only one who figured it out. And she was like, "Guys, it's obvious. Like they're doing Luke Skywalker."
She's such a nerd.
I love her so much. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that little fun thing out.
Right.
Sam Witwer levels of nerd. Sam, I'm going to correct Dave Filoni on my first day in the office. Witwer.
Yes.
Shout out to Dark Side Divas for educating me on that fun fact.
Bless his beautiful little heart. God, he's so pretty.
Two more very quick things that I want to mention before we get into the stinger. The less consequential is I just want to talk about Gideon in this sequence. His fucking face when Luke Skywalker shows up.
No, that face starts when they say a Jedi.
It's a Jedi.
He's like, fuck, because there's only one of those that he knows about. Right. And that's the one who killed his boss. So
both of his bosses. He's like, oh shit.
That's a bad dude. We do not need to have him on the ship, right? Like, just his whole world is crumbling. And it's so beautiful to watch.
Giancarlo plays it as this is the face of a guy who has had a variable thrown into his plan that is a fucking monster variable for the first time in his life.
The guy who thinks he knows everything had no way of knowing that Jedi was going to show up today. That's awesome.
And then he like tries to shoot himself, which is super dark, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching Resistance for reasons I can't talk about yet. Although by the time this episode airs, people will probably know them. But it's such a strange contrast to go from watching Resistance to watching this episode for my notes. As because some of the stuff in here is kind of dark.
Well, first he tries to murder a baby. Then he tries to murder anybody who's standing between him and the baby so he can murder the baby. And when none of that works, he tries to kill himself.
Well, he shoots Bo-Katan a bunch, and he specifically targets Bo-Katan. He specifically tries to assassinate Bo-Katan and then tries to shoot himself and then gets clocked in the face.
With the cock and balls rifle, as it should be. Yeah.
Jeez. I cannot
try and unthink it. Go ahead.
Chris is gonna send me a message like, why the fuck did you guys not invite me for this?
No, he's gonna be like, you see what I have to deal with now? You see?
Well, too bad. I'm just as bad.
She turns everything into a cock and balls. You can't stop her. Anyway, you were saying.
And then the last thing I want to bring up is the deprogramming. So this is the end of the deprogramming arc.
When he finally takes his helmet
off. And Bradley and I have been talking. We talked about with our guest Aaron on episode 3. Aaron both has personal experience with and has done a lot of research in cults, particularly American Western religious evangelical cults.
Wow.
And she talked a lot about deprogramming. And we talked about the arc of Din's deprogramming over the course of the show, how he is confronted with things that challenge his ideology and how he reacts each time. So his reaction to Bo-Katan when she takes her helmet off in episode 1, his reaction
so offended.
Episode 3, in episode 1 when he meets Cobb Vanth and he's wearing the Mandalorian armor. And then especially episode 7, we talked about when Mayfeld directly challenges him and he locks up. This is kind of the end of that deprogramming arc to where finally in a do or die, he may never see the child again. It is his values or a moment with his child. He ultimately chooses the child.
Right. And the moment when Grogu reaches up his little clawed green hand and touches his dad's face, the look, there's a because Din Djarin doesn't do a lot of facial expressions. This is not something he's been socialized to see or to mimic for his entire life since he was a child. So his facial expressions are extremely subtle, but just the profound moment when somebody touched his face.
Right.
Nobody's touched his face since they put the helmet on him when he was a kid. This is the first time, and it's his son. And it's just like, oh, I mean, straight to the heart, just the look on his face. He has to close his eyes and like take a breath and I'm okay. I'm okay.
There's only one thing that would make this scene even better, and is
if he took his shirt off. I agree.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking more like if Din had like a tear go down his face, and then Grogu went and grabbed the tear, whatever, he like wiped it away. Like that would have been like it. That would have set people off.
Yeah, no, I would have died 1,000 times, but I also feel like that would have been a little too much for that moment. But just having him stand there with just the glisten in the bottom of his eyes of the tears that he doesn't even care if anybody sees, because he doesn't even care if these people see his face right now. Oh,
and that's got to be the first, like, it's this moment of emotional vulnerability where even someone like us who's been socialized to control our facial expressions, this would be an extremely vulnerable moment for us. For Din, who has not got that control, it's almost even more so, because not only are they seeing his face, they're seeing his face in this extremely vulnerable moment for him.
He's so naked, and not in a fun way.
And then Luke pulls some fucking Luminara bullshit and is like, may the force be with you.
Okay,
like, you can't have anything better you could say or more comforting you could say.
No, nothing. I also really loved how Din was so unself-conscious for somebody who is so exposed in front of people for the first time since Mayfeld. He's totally not aware of them, because the only person he sees in that moment is Grogu. He doesn't see anybody else. Like, he sees Luke for a minute just to make some eye contact and be like, don't take my kid to a school where he's going to get killed by your nephew someday. Okay. We're not going to do that. Right. I feel like that was an unspoken agreement that Luke is going to break later, but yeah, he's so not focusing on everyone else in the room that we as the audience don't see everyone else in the room. They're either out of frame or so out of focus that we can't see them. So that was really good on the director crafting that shot. It's tunnel vision down the hallway.
They have an insert shot of one other person in the room at the very end. They have a quick shot of Cara Dune for some reason. The last time we will see her in the series.
Bye.
Bye,
Felicia.
Which takes on new meaning now that it will be the last shot of her. But they have this random insert shot of her. But other than that, yeah, it's tunnel vision. Like right up until Luke walks away, and you can kind of see people standing around, and everybody's looking at this scene. No one's looking at Den. They're looking at what's happening, because what has happened is a 1 in a trillion moment.
If you're very lucky, you will never see it again, because let's not get deeply involved with Jedi. Okay.
Right.
It doesn't end well for anybody.
I feel like all of galactic history is shown.
Yes.
Do not get involved with the Jedi.
No. There be dragons. But yeah, that's it. I fucking loved it. I unconditionally adored the Luke Skywalker of it all from the first time I saw it. Loved it.
Before we finish out to our credits, where this episode definitely ends, right on the directed credit, and nothing happens after. I'm just curious because Steph and I have both shared our reactions to watching it for the first time. But Bradley, I want to hear yours.
So I think this ties in. We've talked about this before privately, off air. But I think when I first watched this, well, first of all, I want to say when I first watched it, when I saw the X-Wing, I didn't actually think about Luke Skywalker for some reason. Like that didn't cross my brain at all. I think it was when you first see his glove with the lightsabers when you truly know for sure. Because I think up to that point I was like, who the fuck could this be? Like it could be Plo Koon, it could be fucking Kit Fisto for all we fucking know. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter. Like so I was thinking like, okay, you know, this is a strange thing. Once I finally knew it was him, I was like, no way they're doing this. Like this is strange. And you know, they smartly don't show his face the whole entire time up until the last point, which is a very smart, like kind of, you know, just choice to do the character without showing the character, right?
It also saves money.
That too. But I think me and Charles have the same kind of thought process. Like this is a series finale moment, not a season finale moment. And I think that was my first reaction to this was, whoa, wait. This is the end of the show stuff. This is not the end of the season stuff. So we were, I can kind of speak for you. We were kind of shocked that they would put this in there. They even think to put this in there.
Because we did discuss at length, like my thoughts was, oh, the rest of the show is going to be him traveling around doing things and getting involved with stuff and hunting down the Jedi. And then at the end of it, he's going to find a Jedi and something's going to happen. But nope. Dave and his moving at 18,000 miles an hour, resolving things in just a few episodes after he introduces them, like drop this on us.
Well, but you guys are right, though. It is the end of that story. Mando's not the lone gunman with the child anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
That chapter is done. Those chapters and each episode is called a chapter. Those chapters are done. There's going to be a new book, and I firmly believe that we will see Grogu again, and he will come swooping in with the most adorable little lightsaber at some point and rescue Mando in a moment of great duress. But until then, no, we're moving on to whatever's next for this gunslinger out in the wild, wild west of the galaxy.
It has been speculated, and I sort of I think that this is credible enough that I would say this is probably a thing that I could really see happening, that there'll be one more season of The Mandalorian, and then they will change the show. They will change the name and they will change the direction, and they will keep the entire cast. Okay. And the name change will reflect some major change in the story, some sea change. I privately suspect that the new name for the show after season 3 is going to be The Mandalore.
Okay.
But we will see what happens with that.
Right. Because this is a great little transition into our epilogue.
Who directed this episode and who wrote it, Bradley, on our concept art list credits?
Yeah. So it was directed by Peyton Reed, which is as we mentioned before, the Ant-Man guy.
He is also the director, the famed and storied director of Bring It On.
Yes, I mentioned that in...
Thank you.
And Charles was like, okay.
No, Charles. You're being a cheer-tater, Charles. No.
Okay.
We'll acknowledge the joy of this.
I'm gonna deploy my excuse for every time this happens, which is
it's cold in here.
I am a top. So I cannot be expected to retain knowledge well. I am bad at the thinking.
Oh my God.
I wish to God you guys could see Stef's face right now.
I'm going to let you have that excuse because it's adorable. It's bad shit. But you are being a cheer-tater in this moment. And I think excuses like that are strictly forbidden. I'm quoting Bring It On right now, Charles.
Oh, I know you are. I know you are. And Bradley's over here like a smug little motherfucker. Like, oh, good. Someone else gets to do this to him for
I love it.
He directed Bring It On.
Right. The most famous movie he's ever directed.
Yeah. He certainly hasn't done anything since. Not sure how he landed this gig.
Right.
Lord.
What a loser.
Good job, Peyton Reed.
Right.
So Peyton Reed brought us into the episode, brought us into the season and closed us out.
Mhm.
And then who wrote this episode, Radley?
It was John.
Of course it was.
My boyfriend, Jon Favreau. Yeah.
Yes.
What's this face? What's this face, Bradley? Do we not like Jon Favreau?
No. It's just because literally the majority of this season obviously was written by John. And because we've talked about how John and Dave, and there's a few that are not, but it's funny
Rick
how
Famuyiwa, I think wrote episode 7, and I think that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head that was not written by John or Dave.
Right.
Mhm.
Because I think it's the first 3 are a trilogy, we said, that are written by John. And then the kind of mini trilogy, or the dispersed trilogy, we'll call it, is the final kind of end cap of the season. That's got the Peyton Reed kind of, not the Peyton Reed, the Rick episode is kind of like sandwiched in. But it's still a part of the trilogy story, but it does kind of go off a little bit and then come back.
And of course, we know Dave wrote the Ahsoka episode. Because
Obviously.
Right.
Obviously, he did.
Who the fuck else is going to write
Who
it?
the fuck
Right.
else? Who is allowed to write Ahsoka
Who
Tano
would
besides Dave?
dare
Exactly.
to try? Katie Lucas, that's who.
Apparently, the answer is also Rosario Dawson, who's co-writing the series with Dave Filoni.
I mean,
Mhm.
pop off, lady. Get
Sure.
it. I love her.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay, so
Well,
that's it. The
was,
credits.
that was the end of
And
the episode.
That's the end of it,
That's
right?
it.
Yep,
Go
Nothing else?
home, everyone.
Nothing else happened. Except Bradley,
Yeah.
do you want to give us our final summation
Final
of
summation.
this season?
Well, finally, if you stayed to the end of the credits, like in a Marvel cutscene, we see
Mhm.
Jabba's palace on Tatooine, which is now being run by the gluttonous Bib Fortuna.
Mm.
Fennec Shand enters the room and kills all of the guards and gangsters. She frees a Twi'lek slave girl before Boba Fett shows up and shoots Fortuna dead. Boba throws the dead
Mhm.
body on the floor, taking the throne as Fennec Shand takes a swig of spotchka, taking her place at his side. Book of Boba is confirmed.
Mhm.
I
Taking
am
his place
so-
at his right hand.
Yes.
That's where she
Yes.
sits.
I am so glad you mentioned the spotchka. That she just goes. And everything we have seen about this stuff, right, is that it is strong as shit.
Right.
People pour little shots of spotchka and it's fine.
Right.
And here's fucking Fennec Shand. It's just like, I
out
am
of the
going
bottle.
to swig Everclear straight out of the bottle. Fucking
That's right.
queen, fucking legend, fucking
Love her.
icon.
So
Like,
ready for this
holy
shit.
shit.
Mm.
I'm going to rapid fire some facts.
Okay.
Because we have Stef on the show, of course, I have to mention any notable actors. I do that anyway, but
Right.
Bib Fortuna is played by Matthew Wood.
It's Matthew Wood.
It's Matthew Wood.
Mm.
Matthew Wood famously, he had played Bib Fortuna in The Phantom Menace. He
Uh-huh.
played Bib Fortuna in The Bad Batch.
Mhm.
He voices all of the battle droids. And he also provides the voice for General Grievous.
Uh-huh.
Which, fun fact about that, I do remember, wasn't he like not allowed to audition for General Grievous?
Mhm.
Because I remember a story where when they were doing the auditions to replace Gary Oldman, they were not allowing Lucasfilm employees to audition for this role. And Matthew Wood submitted it anyway and got the part. I
love
half
that.
remember that from a Revenge of the Sith. Maybe that could be the
Sure.
thing Charles fucked up on the show. I might have to do some research on that. But yeah, he's awesome. He is all over Star Wars. He
Right.
is the voice
He's
of
the sound guy also.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
is Ben Burt's like successor.
Mhm.
He's the voice of Roger on the Freemaker Adventures. He's just, it would be easier to list the things that Matthew Wood is not in.
Right. Well, that
Exactly.
brings me to a funny point. So I don't now, there could have been others previously. We just haven't dug that deep into it. But Matthew Wood would technically be our first Disney crew trifecta.
Hey.
Oh, really?
Yes, because he has been a supervising sound editor on pretty much everything.
Mhm.
But fun fact, he has been a supervising sound editor, of course, on Star Wars stuff. All the new Marvel shows. So he's been on Loki, he's been on WandaVision, he's been on Winter Soldier. He's also, to make it officially a Disney trifecta, he has also been the supervising sound editor on WALL-E, which is the one that I chose to tell you guys about. So he is our first crew Disney trifecta.
What a fucking superstar.
God,
right?
I love
him.
Man.
Oh.
And funny enough, you said he did the voice of the battle droids. Funny enough, I looked it up. He also did the voice of the battle droids in the Villager episode of Visions in the English dub.
Yes, right. In the English dub.
There you go.
So he is also in Star Wars Visions. He is all over the place. This man does not sleep.
Right.
Man does not sleep ever.
And the behind the scenes footage of him shooting this, he's just so happy to be in this giant Bib Fortuna suit. And it's a lot. Like it's not quite to the level of being the Jabba slug suit, but it's as close as you could get to that and only have one person inside it. Like it's just Bib's been eating.
Yes.
A little bit.
A lot of times when you watch behind the scenes footage and you're like, there's no way they can be having that much fun all the time on this set.
Oh, hell no. This is definitely fun.
But everything I've heard about the Star Wars sets is that when they actually get on the sets, everybody's having a blast doing it.
I feel it.
Because they love being there. And it comes across in the stories that they tell. You can just feel the love oozing off of the page for it.
It's so good. It's so good.
Couple of tiny little notes before we get into the big one.
Okay.
The staff is from a 1993, I believe, action figure. So once again, I have shouted this fucking video out on every single goddamn episode of the second season I did. But Alex Damon, Star Wars Explains 101 Easter eggs, has been invaluable to me.
Nice.
In noticing some of these that I would not have noticed.
I'll crib off of other people's work. Absolutely.
So, thank you, Alex. Thank you for making me sound so much smarter than I actually am.
I love it.
But that staff is from like a 1993 action figure. I didn't do a lot of research on it. It looks like it might have been Kenner, but I'm not 100% sure.
My God, the level of nerd that it takes to be in the production of this show and go, you know what? Bib Fortuna had a stick. I saw it. It was on a toy.
It was there.
Yeah. And then just to make it.
Probably Pablo Hidalgo, since that's like his actual job is to do those things. The nails are super weird. Like I love how he clearly has not been taking care of himself.
Right.
And they point this out because his nails are super long.
So grotesquely long.
So disgusting.
Bib Fortuna was never a good looking Twi'lek. The
eternal debate.
He was never a good looking citizen of Ryloth to begin with.
Right.
But now
let
yourself go, sir. But I mean, we've seen, in what's his name?
Orn Frita.
Thank you.
That piece of shit.
As they age,
that asshole.
Maybe there's a tendency to thicken up a bit, and that's fine.
Yeah, when you go to Coruscant and spend the entire Clone War just like eating luxury dinners and
with a drumstick in one hand and a martini in the other, slave girl under each arm.
Like, that's what happens, Orn Frita. I'm not saying that Cham Syndulla was justified in what he does, but I am saying that I understand what he's coming from.
Like I can see what motivated you.
If you look in the background of the scene, you can kind of see in the Star Wars Explained video, he explicitly identifies one of the backup singers from the Jedi Rock sequence, We're Still Sand.
Oh, wow.
I did see that, around? Yeah.
So I checked Wikipedia. Wikipedia does not explicitly confirm that is her. She is not credited as such in the episode, and nothing official appears to have said, but we can be reasonably certain that that is the backup, one of the backup singers the Jedi rock sequence.
Nice.
Thank God. Because that brings us full circle to our very first pilot episode of Goldsquadrongays that we did, where we talked about that scene in Return of the Jedi and how that affected us as children.
When you think about it, we also talked about Hayden Christensen in the pilot episode.
Wow, full circle.
Please do not go back and listen to the pilot episode.
Oh yeah,
it
no.
sucks.
Yeah, don't go back and listen to our first episode or two either. We didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
We were so nervous about
funny.
talking about Star Wars in public.
Take my advice. Don't do that. Or well, I did like you guys' first few episodes because of the hippie Qui-Gon stuff. When we had Chris on for Ryloth, I was finding excuses to work the stuff in. At the time, I'd only listened to the first couple of episodes.
Nice.
I have now listened to the entire catalog.
Woohoo! That's a lot. We talked for a very long time. Congratulations. I feel like you should get some kind of trophy.
Welcome to Gold Squadron Gays. We talk a long time too.
I had noticed that. It's fine.
Boba. So the last Easter egg, which is going to take us into the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
The throne actually, for some reason, has Boba Fett's name on it.
Oh.
That's what's written
already
in the language. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an Easter egg. It has the little
I see.
Boba Fett's name on it. It just says Boba Fett repeated over and over again in the English language. Which brings us to Boba Fett sitting on the throne.
Oof, sir. That's a nice shot.
And how I want him to sit on my face like that.
There it is. Boom. I just saying that there's enough room on that throne to climb up on his lap.
It was deliberately designed certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They knew what they were doing.
You saw when they put out the posters for Book of Boba Fett, and there's the shot. Yeah, he's got the big the man spread on his throne, and it's a good shot. Some blessed person whose name I cannot remember right now, and I'm so sorry, photoshopped at the top of that poster, "Daddy's home."
Oh,
and
my God! Yes, he is.
Bless. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, Book of Boba Fett caught literally everybody off guard.
Yeah. There was a lot of confusion. A lot of people were like, wait, is Mandalorian over? Is it Boba Fett now?
I think people are still confused. They're a little confused. I think until Book of Boba airs, it's right after Christmas, we're gonna be like, okay, I get it. Once
December
it airs,
29th.
Right. I think that's when we'll finally understand what it is, and then we'll understand going forward how it's going to go.
I'm so excited about it too, because the criminal underbelly of the Star Wars galaxy is so powerful. It always has been from the original trilogy. It has always had this, it's been this enormous shadowy power behind the scenes, and we're finally diving into it. Oh, I can't wait. Also, everybody involved is really sexy, so that's nice too.
I'm so ready for it.
It helps.
Yeah, and that was the first indication that they were going to start spinning things off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had kind of heard about Rangers of the New Republic,
mm-hmm.
Potentially maybe being a Cara Dune vehicle, which is obviously not going to be anymore.
Nope.
Right.
But we had kind of heard rumblings of that. Maybe they were going to do one spin-off show, but this caught everybody off guard.
Mm-hmm.
That it was going to tie in like this. And then they did the Disney investor call in 2021, in early 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh no, we're actually doing a bunch of shows. The entire second season of Mando was just one giant backdoor pilot. Have fun, guys.
I love
it. But that's Disney. Disney's like, oh, is there more money? I smell money.
Yeah.
And we're going to chase it. And you know what? Okay. I will not begrudge you that. Continue to bring the magic into my life. Make me feel something. Thank you.
Oh God, please distract us from everything, including the stuff that your company does.
Give us the bread and circuses. We will help you play the fiddle as Rome burns. Anyway, since that was so uplifting.
What an uplifting note. That's everything I have.
That's everything.
Okay, well, I want to do our rankings real quick.
Yes.
Yeah. So
What are
we
we
have
ranking?
our final ranking of the season.
We've been ranking the episodes from this season as we go along, and
Mhm.
I've been kind of doing mine off the cuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do them off the cuff again now, and then Bradley, next week when we do our retrospective, then I will sit and think and write. So this will be my gut reaction
Got it.
episode rankings.
Okay.
Steph, you do not have to participate in this. You can if you want to.
Okay, I'm gonna watch you guys, and then we'll see.
Okay, so I'll go first. We're going to see if things have changed a bit since last week. So number one is going to be the Jedi. Then I'm going to go with the Heiress, the Marshal, the Rescue. I know that the Siege is going to be at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
I know that the Passenger is going to be right above that.
Uh-huh.
I am trying to remember what the other two episodes of the season were. It was, okay, the Tragedy is right below the Rescue. So the Tragedy is number 5. And then the Believer is going to be right below that. So the Tragedy and the Believer have switched places.
So yeah, so the way that we've been ranking
that was confusing. So it goes Jedi, Heiress, Marshal, Rescue, Tragedy, Believer, Passenger, Siege.
Right. So in the past couple episodes, so leading up to this, we've had pretty much the same exact ranking up until we got to the 5th or 6th episode, right? So Believer and Tragedy for me and Charles is kind of like switched, which is not like drastically, but like, it's just slightly like, I like one more than the other and he likes one more than the other, but it's pretty much the same except for those two. I have Believer at number 5 and the Tragedy at number 6. So
okay.
We both agree that the best episode of this season, or we think, is the Jedi, which is the Ahsoka episode, and then we think the worst one is the Siege, which is the group attacking the Imperial base. So
you mean the macaron commercial? That's what I took away from that
theme
episode.
park episode.
Yes, exactly.
But please put this ride in your. Carl Weathers is good at doing the action. It was a fun episode. Right. It's not much more than fun.
But yeah, I like in this season, that's not going to be a standout at all.
Well, we can ask you. We were going to say we can ask you. What's your favorite episode of the season?
The Jedi is my favorite.
Okay.
Absolutely, because I had a big like nostalgia, stars in my eyes moment when I saw Luke Skywalker, but my whole heart just leapt out of my chest when I saw Ahsoka.
100%.
And it just because I love her.
Right.
I've come a long way in my feelings about Ahsoka, but so yeah, the Jedi is absolutely.
So did I.
That had to evolve.
Someday, some podcast is going to get me on, and I will be able to finally talk about just how shitty my opinions on Ahsoka were. The wisest thing I ever did as a Star Wars fan. So I worked for the city newspaper's teen section at the time. I was one of their movie reviewers. And I fought tooth and nail to get the Clone Wars movie.
Oh no. What did
I walked into that movie.
Charles, what did you do?
And I walked out of that movie and I called my editor from the parking lot. And I said, please give this review to someone else. It's not that I can't review this movie. I can. I am just going to trash it for 6 solid paragraphs. And it deserves someone more objective to look at it because all of my complaints are as a fan of this series.
There you go.
Wisest thing I ever did. Nice. Now I have a podcast where I give my terrible opinions on the internet.
There you go. Yeah.
Where they stay forever.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think I would probably rank the Believer higher. I'm not sure where exactly, and I don't have the mental bandwidth at this stage to be able to really lay out the list. But I loved the Believer.
Same.
Loved that episode because there's a thing when you cast a comedian in a dramatic role, which is Bill Burr. They're so fucking good at it because comedy is so hard that drama comes easily to them. And so the facial journey he went on sitting at that table, you can see the exact moment when he realized, I'm going to kill this man. And he looks at Mando and he's like, I'm sorry. I know this fucks up your whole plan, but I'm going to kill this man. and like the 7 stages of heartbreak that he went through,
Right.
justifying it to himself and realizing, no, I can't walk away from this table and not kill this guy. Like
Right.
all of that just happened on his face. It was so good. Anyway, I really like
Bill Burr has no business being as good as he is in that episode. And I will definitely look forward to hearing you guys cover it in exactly 20 years when you finally get to it.
Right.
In about 20 years. Yeah.
Which segues quite nicely into Steph, as we close this episode out, do you want to do your promotions for Dark Side Divas, the show in which a woman and a gay man express their opinions about Star Wars?
What Charles said. You may have noticed, I'm really bad about talking myself up, but I love this podcast. I love the show that Chris and I are doing. We are Dark Side Divas. We are bringing the voices of a woman and a gay man to the Star Wars fandom. And we are exploring the entire visual story of Star Wars in chronological order. So we started with The Phantom Menace, and we are, as quickly as we can, moving through the entire story. We just finished season 3 of Clone Wars. I am in the middle of editing our Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales episode right now. And then we're going to jump into season 4 where shit gets real dark real quick. So literally dark. It's the Umbara arc. So
you guys got a way to go.
We got a ways to go, because like we got to finish out Clone Wars, and then there's Revenge of the Sith, and then we got
wow,
endless content.
Where can the people find you on the social medias if they want to interact with Dark Side Divas and tell you how wrong you are about all of your opinions?
Would you please?
And then get roasted on the first few minutes of your show.
It's so fun. No, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, most especially TikTok, as at Dark Side Divas. And you can find our podcast anywhere podcasts are. Chris has done a really good job whoring us out just all over the place. We're everywhere. We're like glitter after a rave.
Knowing Chris, that's an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, no, he's a pimp. That's what he does. Yep. So this has been really fun. So
yes, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much.
I think that's it. Okay. I do this on our show too, where I'm like, I don't know how to end this conversation for the listeners. So
well, here's how I do it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Bradley, run the fucking social so I can get the fuck out of here.
Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gays.
Did we forget something? Email us at goldsquadrongays@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at goldsquadgays. And you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Gold Squadron Gays. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gays, where we post this podcast as well as exclusive video content.
Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gays.
I was like, you know what? I'm a guest. I don't have to prepare. I just need to show up and be pretty.
That's right.
So
that's okay. That's the mentality Bradley has every fucking week.
Listeners, this is an audio medium, so you can't see the smugness on Bradley's face right then. Oh, it's beautiful.